Chapter 1001. A good deal. Lao One has been updating regularly. Please subscribe and get monthly votes. During this period, Qin Sheng had been thinking, which was also what the Qin family was thinking about. Which direction should the Qin family develop in the future? This was a crucial question for them. The Qin family had already spun off the companies related to the Chong group. It could be said that the companies under the Qin family had nothing to do with the Chong and group now. Next, the Qin family would sell off the shares of the Chong and group and get a lot of cash and high-quality assets. The next plan was to integrate the current companies under the Qin family. When the Qin family decided on the direction of development, they would sell off the assets that were not suitable for the development of the Qin family, including the high-quality assets obtained by selling the shares this time. These were all popular goods. In the end, the Qin family would only keep a few companies that were suitable for development, and the rest would be a lot of cash. It was estimated that not many companies could hold so much money like the Qin family and only wait to enter the market to buy the goods. At present, the Qin family had only 3 development directions. The first one was finance, which was the top of the pyramid of all industries. However, the Qin family would not touch the finance industry like the Chong and group did. In the past, the Chong and group was similar to most of the current financial companies. They all pursued financial holding groups with full financial licenses. They used insurance banks as a lever to lay out securities, funds, asset management, and other related industries, forming a closed loop of financial companies and finally becoming a giant. However, after talking with the old professor from Tsinghua University, Qin Sheng understood a lot of things. It was easy to get into trouble by doing this, which was why so many financial holding groups have been in trouble in recent years. It was because they had touched the bottom line of the policy. In front of the general trend, any company or individual would be like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. However, in the future, the Qin family would not take the path of financial holding groups like this. They would only take the path of investment funds, looking for high-quality companies around the world for financial investment. This was the most reasonable path. The second direction was high-tech companies and internet companies. These high-quality companies could promote the progress of society. The Qin family needed to invest heavily in this aspect to ease some relations, especially in those startup companies. The Qin family could set up a venture capital company to participate in it. The last one was the industry. Industry was the foundation of a country. The Qin family's previous path was too lofty, so they didn't have a foundation. Integrating and investing in the industry that the country was developing vigorously could not only exchange for favorable policies, but also integrate the Qin family's resources in all aspects, laying a good foundation for the Qin family's future development. Therefore, Qin Sheng also had a purpose for attending this class reunion. One was to communicate more with these big shots in his class. After all, these students were well off. When the Qin family wanted to sell high-quality assets, he could take the initiative to contact these students. This could be considered as not leaving fertile water to outsiders. On the other hand, he could quickly exchange the assets for cash. After all, these students' families were not short of money. On the other hand, he could get a good relationship with these classmates' families. Next, he could get the second or third cooperation. Another reason was to get into the circle of his classmates who had started their own businesses. He could keep in touch with them in the future so that he could understand the trends of the venture capital industry. After chatting about trivial matters for a while, Qin Sheng took the initiative to throw out a topic at this time. It just so happens that you are all here. Let me tell you something. Otherwise, you will blame me for not telling you in advance when the time comes. Anyway, we should keep the goodies within the family. What is it? Qin Sheng said in a mysterious way. The others looked at each other and felt curious. Qin Sheng said slowly, "The Qin family will integrate our companies and sell some unimportant related companies. There may be some high-quality assets. If you're interested, we can talk about it in detail." Hearing this news, everyone had different expressions on their faces. Maybe everyone had different thoughts. For example, Han Su was confused, thinking that the Qin family sold their assets because they were short of money. Wei Li thought more deeply. What had happened between the Qin family and the Chong in school? As for the others, they all had different ideas. Lao Luo stood out first and said, Lao Qin, the Qin family is going to sell their assets? The assets of the Chong and group? If it's really the assets of the Chong and group, to be honest, we can't take it. The assets of the Chong and group are huge. Only those big shots can take it. There was a deeper meaning in Lao Luo's words, which might be what everyone else was thinking, but he was too embarrassed to say it. If it was the assets of the Chong and group, none of them would dare to take it. After all, the Chong and group had not been settled yet. Who knew what would happen? Qin Sheng also thought of this, so he said honestly, don't worry. It's not the assets of the Chong and group. The Qin family has already divested the assets of the companies related to the Chong and group. They all belong to the Qin family. Maybe the Qin family will take over a batch of high-quality assets in a period of time. However, these assets may not match the Qin family's main business in the future, so we want to sell them for cash. If you're interested, we can talk about it and see which assets can be integrated with your family business. I see. It seems that we're going to get a bargain, Tang Ke said with a smile. Qin Sheng said, selling them to others is definitely different from selling them to you. You will give us a discount. After all, we are classmates. Han Su could not sit still anymore. He did not care what it was, as long as it could help Qin Sheng. He shouted directly, Qin Sheng, inform me first when the time comes. I will bring my father here to talk to you and ask him to buy more. Anyway, I have so much money that I don't know how to spend it. Wei Li laughed and said, Han Su, do you think this is a vegetable market? I guess the high-quality assets that Qin Sheng will buy are easily worth hundreds of millions. You are really ambitious. Then you should buy more, Han Su snorted. Wei Li looked at Qin Sheng and said, Lao Qin, if others don't want to take advantage of this, I will. At that time, if these assets are really good enough, our circle of Zhejiang businessmen can swallow them all. It can also be regarded as offering the Buddha with borrowed flowers. Wei Li, how can I let you take all the advantages? Although our family is not as good as yours, we have some family background in Hubei. Besides, I have a say in the company. I will definitely join in the fun, Lao Luo said. Even if these assets were ordinary, as long as he maintained his relationship with Qin Sheng, it would be a good deal. Hearing that Wei Li and others had already expressed their views, the other two also echoed one after another. Anyway, whether to buy or not in the end was still another matter. They should express their views first. At worst, they could just say that there was no suitable one. Since they had talked about this topic, the next topic was about business. They had never talked about these things so directly. This time, it was a real exchange of the identity of the successor of the family. As they talked, there were many opportunities for cooperation, so the atmosphere became more and more lively. At about 5 o'clock, they felt it was almost time, so they set off for the World Trade Center. Tonight's class reunion would be held in a high-end restaurant in the World Trade Center, arranged by several students from Beijing. Qin Sheng did not grab this opportunity to offer the Buddha with borrowed flowers. After all, he did not want to be in the limelight, nor did he want to steal the limelight of others. Anyway, today's purpose had been achieved. As long as he told Wei Li and others, it meant that other students already knew. At that time, if they were really interested, of course, Qin Sheng would be happy to sell to them. Moreover, these assets of the Qin family did not need to worry about buyers. After all, these assets belonged to the Qin family, not the Chang group. On the way to the World Trade Center, Qin Sheng still drove with Wei Li and Han Su. The others drove here. These rich playboys naturally had their own circle and friends in Beijing, so Qin Sheng did not need to worry about these things. At this time, Wei Li took the initiative to ask, Lao Qin, some time ago, I heard that the Qin family is going to sell the shares of the Chang group. Is it true? Wei Li, your nose is like a dog's. How did you know this? Qin Sheng was very surprised. Wei Li laughed and said, Lao Qin, don't look down on the news of Zhejiang. Otherwise, how could Zhejiang become the largest chamber of commerce in the country at present? Which Zhejiang doesn't have a few bodhisattvas and temples behind it. Otherwise, I would have thought of the matter you mentioned just now. Well, indeed. At present, we have found a seller, and the acquisition contract has also been reached. During this period, it is estimated that the whole acquisition process will be completed before the end of the year. At that time, the Qin family will have a large number of high-quality assets in their hands. After all, the acquisition plan is cash and shares. Qin Sheng did not hide and said directly. Hearing this, Wei Li felt confident and replied, "Okay, as long as you want to sell, we dare to do it. Moreover, these assets are not risky. I guess people will rush to buy them. It seems that our classmates are really lucky. I'm afraid that some people still do not understand." No matter how stupid Han Su was, he could understand that and asked, "By the way, can I go back and tell my father about this so that he can prepare in advance?" "Go ahead. There is nothing that can't be said," Qin Sheng said indifferently. After hearing this, Han Su laughed. It was estimated that this time when he went back and told this news, maybe his father would be happy and buy him a car. Recently, he happened to see a car that he liked. It seemed that there was a solution. Wei Li asked with interest, "Lao Qin, which family bought it?" "I can't say for now. You will know when the time comes. But it is not a family. I can only say that it is a group of interests," Qin Sheng explained. After hearing this, Wei Li nodded silently and said, "I think I understand." After a long time, they arrived at the World Trade Center. As the most expensive place in Beijing, there were many high-end restaurants in the World Trade Center. Of course, ordinary people could not afford them. However, these classmates were not ordinary people, and they still had this kind of family background. They took the elevator directly to the restaurant on the top floor of the World Trade Center. The environment here was definitely good, and they could overlook the night view of the whole Siju city. After they arrived at the restaurant, they were directly taken to a private room by the waiter. The private room could directly seat more than 20 people. When they arrived at the private room, most of the classmates had already arrived, but the atmosphere was a little strange. Chapter 1002. Qin Sheng rarely looked at the WeChat group messages and his circle of friends. Most of the time, he was dealing with work or looking at the headlines on Weibo. Therefore, he did not know that the quarrel in the class group had already caused an uproar. Although there were other students who added him to a small group, Qin Sheng also blocked the group message prompts. Otherwise, no one could stand the ringing of his phone every day. Therefore, if Lao Luo did not mention the fight between Yao Yao and Fong Lu, Qin Sheng would not have known about it. Qin Sheng had a good impression of Yao Yao and Fong Lu at that time. Both of them were the type of strong women. Yao Yao's social skills were better than others. She was very careful when dealing with people. In addition, her family background was not simple. Naturally, everyone was willing to get close to Yao Yao. Moreover, Yao Yao was pretty and had a good temperament. Who would not be willing to communicate with such a beauty? Moreover, Yao Yao was a married woman. Women at this age were the most attractive. As for Fong Lu, although her family background was not as good as Yao Yao's, it was not much worse. Most importantly, Fong Lu was much prettier than Yao Yao. She was the real goddess of the advanced research class of Tsinghua University. Moreover, Lu was better at business than Yao Yao and had more resources in all aspects. Therefore, there were many classmates who were close to Fong Lu. Most importantly, Fong Lu was not married yet. How could the single classmates not have feelings for her? There could not be two tigers on the same mountain, unless one was male and the other was female. If two female tigers lived on the same mountain, there would definitely be a winner. Moreover, women were born with a competitive mentality. It was normal for them to be jealous. When they were in class, Yao Yao and Fong Lu had been secretly competing with each other. Anyway, Yao Yao would not participate in any of Fong Lu's activities. In order to show off her resources and connections in Siju City, Yao Yao had organized many dinners and parties, but she had never invited Fong Lu. At first, Fong Lu did not think much about it. She thought they were not familiar with each other yet. However, she heard a lot of rumors and had more and more opinions about Yao Yao. Gradually, she began to compete with Yao Yao. Fong Lu also began to organize various activities. Most of them were elites in the business world. There were even a few big shots in the business world. It was obvious that Fong Lu's connections were not simple. Those who liked Yao Yao were from a better family. After all, her parents were both in the system and were in high positions. Who would want to play up to them? Those who liked Fong Lu liked her because she was beautiful and down-to-earth, unlike Yao Yao, who only got close to classmates with powerful family backgrounds and ignored other classmates. This made everyone somewhat dissatisfied. Moreover, Fong Lu had more resources in the business world. After all, everyone was going to be in the business world in the future, not the government. As a result, there were two distinct groups of people. Of course, there were also those who remained neutral and did not want to get involved with anyone or offend anyone, such as Wei Li. Those who still had nothing to do with him, such as Han Su and Qin Sheng. Everyone knew that among their classmates, Qin Sheng, Wei Li, and Han Su were closer to each other. However, in the past, no one had any impression of Qin Sheng and Han Su. After all, they did not have a strong sense of presence. The two of them always sat in the corner at the back, like two unwelcomed students in the same class. As for why Wei Li was closer to them, it was because Wei Li was close to everyone. Ephidacia, compared with the others, everyone knew Wei Li's family background very well. After all, Wei Li had taken over the family business and appeared in public more often. Many people had seen him, unlike Han Su and Qin Sheng. However, everything changed on the day of the graduation ceremony. Qin Chang'an's appearance revealed the mystery to everyone. It turned out that Qin Sheng was the son of the famous Master Qin in Sijou City and the crown prince of the Chang and business empire. Everyone understood in an instant. They didn't expect Qin Sheng to hide his identity so well. No wonder Han Su and Wei Li were Qin Sheng's close friends. They had known about it a long time ago. Everyone regretted it. They wanted to get familiar with Qin Sheng, but it was too late. When Qin Sheng was in the advanced research class of Tsinghua University, he was not familiar with other people except for Wei Li and Han Su, who occasionally had meals and drinks with him. They just greeted each other and communicated most with each other during the celebration on the night of the graduation ceremony. In addition, they did not talk much in the group chat. Therefore, everyone kept a distance from Qin Sheng and did not take the initiative to make friends with him. They did not want to affect their relationship in the end. When Qin Sheng, Wei Li, Han Su, and the others came in, the others had already seen them. Everyone's eyes instantly looked in the direction of the door. Everyone's eyes and expressions were different. This private room was very big, enough to accommodate all the students. The area of the rest area was also not small. Sitting in the private room, they could overlook the night view of the entire CBD. Opposite them was the famous China Zune. At this moment, Yao Yao and the others were talking and laughing there. It seemed that they were having a good time. Fong Lu and the others were chatting by the French windows. Everyone seemed to have met each other happily, talking and laughing. There were also 2 or 3 people sitting at the table talking. After Qin Sheng and the others came in, they felt that the atmosphere was very strange. There were 2 groups of people who were clearly separated. They did not expect that a group of men would become like this because of women. Women were indeed femmes fatales. No wonder there were many wars because of women since ancient times. Before Qin Sheng and the others sat down, Yao Yao and the others, who were closest to Qin Sheng, took the lead and walked over. Yao Yao was dressed very delicately tonight. Her attractive red lips were really fascinating. What made people's hormones secrete more was her low-cut V-neck sweater. Her towering breast stretched the sweater so that the proud gully in the middle could be seen. Sexy women were so charming, not to mention a young married woman who already knew the taste of the world. After Yao Yao swayed her body and walked over, she showed a charming smile and greeted them. "You guys are finally here. Everyone has been waiting for you." Lao Luo and the others responded politely. "Sister Yao Yao, long time no see. I miss you very much. You have become more beautiful. What should I do?" "Lao Luo, you're so good at talking." "Really?" Yao Yao said in a coquettish manner, which made people even more unable to control themselves. Wei Li said, half-jokingly, "Why have you lost weight again? This is not so good. Women are more perfect when they are more voluptuous." Yao Yao covered her mouth and laughed coquettishly. "You have lost weight again. This is not good. Women are more perfect when they are more voluptuous." Yao Yao was really amazing. Just a few jokes made everyone lively. They were all classmates who had not seen each other for a long time. At this time, everyone greeted each other and greeted each other politely. Fong Lu and the others did not rush over. It was unknown whether they disdained to associate with Yao Yao or they were not willing to join in the fun. Qin Sheng did not directly communicate with Yao Yao. He just smiled and greeted his classmates. Today, Qin Sheng could not be as low-key as he was in school. After all, everyone already knew his identity. If he still acted like before, it would seem that he was too arrogant and looked down on others. Even if Qin Sheng did so, others would not dare to say anything to his face. Yao Yao took the initiative to look at Qin Sheng and said, "Qin Sheng, I thought you wouldn't come. I told you that I called you twice. If you didn't come, it would be too disrespectful to your classmates." Qin Sheng smiled and said, "Sister Yao Yao already called me. How did I not come? Moreover, I am in Beijing. It would be wrong if I didn't come. Who knows what my classmates will say about me in the future?" "How could that be? Everyone knows that you are busy. Moreover, everyone is busy. If it was not for the one-year anniversary of our class, we would not have organized this party," Yao Yao said with a smile. She did take the initiative to ask Qin Sheng out, but he did not even reply to her message. Moreover, Yao Yao also knew the situation of the Qin family, so she did not contact him again. Fong Lu had been staring at them from the French window. Seeing Yao Yao, who was acting coquettishly, Fong Lu could not help but say, "What a vixen snobbish. Don't let Yao Yao hear this. Today is our class reunion. Don't make it look bad for everyone in the end," Sun Sijia, who was standing beside Fong Lu, said lightly. Fong Lu said impatiently, "As long as she doesn't make trouble, I will not take the initiative to make trouble." At this time, Zhu Ziyuan said, "Let's go over and say hello to our old classmates. We haven't seen each other for a long time." Fong Lu was also stunning tonight. She made it clear that she wanted to compete with Yao Yao. Moreover, she was more qualified than Yao Yao. Zhu Ziyuan and Sun Sijia were the hidden big shots in this class. Everyone did not know that Zhu Ziyuan and Sun Sijia were close to Fong Lu, which made Yao Yao very jealous. Because Sun Sijia and Zhu Ziyuan took the initiative to keep a distance from Yao Yao, Yao Yao was very angry and blamed Fong Lu for it. After Qin Sheng said hello to Yao Yao and the others, he continued to walk forward with a smile. Of course, Qin Sheng had already seen Sun Sijia and Zhu Ziyuan. These two had some connections with the Qin family. Since they were here, Qin Sheng still had to take the initiative to say hello. As for Fong Lu, Qin Sheng did not want to pay too much attention to her. At this time, Fong Lu and the others had also come over. When Fong Lu, who was walking at the front, was one step away from Qin Sheng, she suddenly took the initiative to hug him in front of everyone. She smiled and said, "Long time no see, Qin Sheng." Fong Lu's way of greeting really surprised everyone. They did not expect that Fong Lu would be so direct. But it was not unreasonable, because everyone knew the relationship between Fong Lu and Qin Sheng in private. Maybe they were closer than everyone else, so she greeted him in this way. Qin Sheng was also stunned. What did this beauty mean? However, after smiling, he understood. It turned out that Fong Lu was using him as a weapon to deal with Yao Yao. Because in this way, people might think that he was closer to Fong Lu. This woman was not simple at all. Zhu Ziyuan and Sun Sijia were a little surprised. But in order to avoid embarrassment, Sun Sijia took the initiative to help Fong Lu out. "Fong Lu, Qin Sheng has just got engaged. You have no chance." "Oh, when did it happen?" "I didn't know." Fong Lu pretended to be surprised. In fact, she had already known it. How many students in the class did not know? Otherwise, why would everyone pay so much attention to Qin Sheng this time? At this time, Fong Lu looked at Qin Sheng and said, "Congratulations, Qin Sheng. I'm waiting for your wedding feast." Zhu Ziyuan took the opportunity to say, "Qin Sheng's fiancée is the famous goddess in Beijing, Song Ruyu. Many young talents have pursued her, but failed. In the end, Qin Sheng won the first prize. Let's not talk about the wedding feast. You should treat us to a meal some other day." "Oh, it turns out to be Sister Song. I have met her several times," Fong Lu said. The others did not know whether it was true or not. Even Qin Sheng did not know whether Fong Lu and Song Ruyu knew each other. He could only ask Song Ruyu later. At this time, Qin Sheng smiled and said, "It's not a big deal to treat us to a meal. We can do it any time, as long as we do it. But when it comes to the wedding feast, you can't run away from the red envelope." Hearing this, everyone laughed and said that they would definitely give Qin Sheng a big red envelope. As for Fong Lu's trick, Qin Sheng did not take it to heart. It was just a small thing. It could only be said that women were not simple, and beautiful and smart women were even more so. On the other side, Yao Yao saw this scene and was so angry that her teeth itched. Obviously, she had lost this round. Chapter 1003. Women always like to be jealous. This was their nature. Not many women would be so generous, especially women like Yao Yao and Fong Lu, who were on par with each other. What did they lack? Nothing at all. Family background, appearance, temperament, education, career, which one of them was not envied by most people? Then what did they lack? What they lacked was the attention of men. Not to mention there were so many outstanding men. How could they not feel a sense of achievement? Therefore, it was normal for Yao Yao and Fong Lu to fight openly and covertly. Even if it was another woman, it would still be the same. No one would be willing to let someone steal the limelight, unless they were not strong enough or did not care about these things. In the round where Qin Sheng was on the stage, Fong Lu beat Yao Yao. Yao Yao was the first to greet Qin Sheng. Yao Yao knew about Qin Sheng's family background, so she had some scruples and did not dare to play any tricks in front of Qin Sheng. However, Fong Lu was different. It was because Yao Yao made the first move that Fong Lu had a better chance. As a result, Fong Lu's performance made everyone feel that she was closer to Qin Sheng. Just now, Fong Lu said that Yao Yao was a vixen, and Yao Yao also said that Fong Lu was a little slut. The two were really the same. Poor Qin Sheng had become the target of others' jealousy. However, Qin Sheng did not care about this. It was enviable to be the target of others' jealousy, let alone two beautiful women. It was a pity that he could only admire them but not touch them. After all, these two women were not simple characters. Qin Sheng did not care about them at all. But no matter what, Fong Lu's social circle was still much stronger than Yao Yao's. It was clear that Fong Lu's ability was extraordinary. Most importantly, Sun Sijia and Zhu Ziyuan knew about Yao Yao's situation, so they deliberately distanced themselves from Yao Yao and got close to Fong Lu. At this time, everyone had arrived. Today, there were only these students, no outsiders, so they could drink and chat to their heart's content, talk about their dreams, and talk about business cooperation. Anyway, they were all adults. There was nothing they couldn't talk about. It all depended on whether their relationship was good or not. Sun Sijia and Zhu Ziyuan were in charge of this time. Seeing that everyone had arrived, Sun Sijia said with a smile, "Since everyone is here, let's not waste any more time. Let's sit down at the table and talk while eating. Anyway, it's still early. Let's drink until we're drunk." There's so many people, so they had to be very particular about how they should do it, who should sit at the main table, and how to allocate the seats on both sides of the main table. All belonged to different small circles. No matter who arranged it, they would probably offend someone. This made Sun Sijia and Zhu Ziyuan a little conflicted. Among these students, Qin Sheng was the most powerful one. Sun Sijia and Zhu Ziyuan were not ordinary people. Not to mention that Qin Sheng was engaged to Song Ruyu and had the support of the Song family, as well as the Chang in school, which said that a skinny camel was still bigger than a horse. The Zhu family, which was behind Qin Sheng, was more powerful than anyone present. Therefore, Qin Sheng naturally sat at the main table, even though the two of them were in charge of the party. When Zhu Ziyuan and Sun Sijia were about to invite Qin Sheng to sit at the main table, Qin Sheng took the initiative to wave his hand and said with a smile, "You can sit anywhere you want." Zhu Ziyuan and Sun Sijia looked at each other. At this time, Qin Sheng also looked at Sun Sijia and Zhu Ziyuan. He smiled and nodded as if he understood what they meant. This made Sun Sijia and Zhu Ziyuan feel somewhat relieved. Qin Sheng was indeed not as simple as the rumors said. Since Qin Sheng had already sat down, Wei Li, Han Su, and the others naturally sat together with Qin Sheng. As a result, Wei Li naturally sat on Qin Sheng's right side. Just when Han Su was about to sit on Qin Sheng's left side, Yao Yao beat him to it and sat next to Qin Sheng. This made everyone very surprised. They did not expect that Yao Yao would take the initiative this time. In order to avoid Han Su from being embarrassed and talking to Yao Yao, Wei Li pulled Han Su at the right time and said, Han Su, sit here. Didn't you say that you can drink more? Let me test you tonight. Han Su did not think so much. He directly turned around and sat next to Wei Li, saying, Haha, you are a loser. How can you be brave? Lao Luo and the others conveniently sat on Han Su's right side. Since Qin Sheng took the initiative to invite them to the He family Sihiyuan to drink tea and chat for a whole afternoon, and finally came with Qin Sheng, they naturally belonged to Qin Sheng's side. Naturally, they sat with Qin Sheng. As for Yao Yao, she took the initiative to sit next to Qin Sheng this time. She took the initiative to approach Qin Sheng and did not give Fong Lu a chance. Naturally, Fong Lu's people would not sit with Yao Yao. Therefore, Yao Yao's classmates conveniently sat on Yao Yao's left side, and the remaining seats were naturally Fong Lu's. Sun Sijia and Zhu Yuan both sat on Yao Yao's side. No matter what, everyone finally sat down. After Yao Yao sat down, she took the initiative to talk to Qin Sheng. How is Grandma Zhu recently? My grandmother went to the hospital to see Grandma Zhu some time ago. She also heard about it from others. Otherwise, she would not have known that Grandma Zhu is back. They used to be old colleagues in the CPPCC. As for Yao Yao's family background, Qin Sheng only had a rough idea. For example, he knew the level of her parents. As for the situation of her grandfather or her maternal grandfather, if Qin Sheng did not carefully inquire about it, he would definitely not know. Now that Yao Yao said so, it seemed that Yao Yao's family background was really not ordinary. Qin Sheng replied with a smile, much better than before. This is how people become when they are old. How is your grandmother? If I have time, I will visit her some other day. She is fine. If you visit her, she will be very happy. When we were young, we were all in the courtyard of the Planning Commission. When my grandmother came to the courtyard of the Planning Commission and saw you, she said that the little guy was so handsome. When he grew up, I didn't know how many little girls he would harm. Yao Yao covered her mouth and smiled. Qin Sheng could not help laughing when he heard this. As for whether it was true or not, there was no evidence at all. He shook his head and laughed. I can't remember what happened when I was young. The courtyard of the Planning Commission is too big. Later on, people moved away one after another. But there are really many big shots in the courtyard of the Planning Commission. Of course, it's just that the people in the courtyard of the Planning Commission are too scattered. Later on, we did not keep in touch. Yao Yao let out a long sigh. If the people in the courtyard of the Planning Commission could be as united as the people in the military, they would probably be powerful now. Sun Sijia and Zhu Zuan had already arranged for the waiters to serve the dishes. Tonight, the women would naturally drink red wine, and the men, of course, would drink white wine. Zhu Zuan and Sun Sijia specially made a custom-made Mao Tai, and even the red wine was a famous series. The dishes were all ordered in advance. Zhu Ziyuan took the initiative to ask everyone to see if there was anything they wanted to eat. However, no one came to the class reunion to eat. Everyone smiled and said no, so Zhu Ziyuan arranged for the dishes to be served. After that, Zhu Ziyuan saw Fong Lu's resentful eyes and said, "What? Are you not convinced again? If you're not convinced, why didn't you take the initiative to sit next to him just now?" Sun Sijia shook his head and sighed bitterly. "You women, you fight for everything. I really give up," Fong Lu said impatiently. "It's not that I want to fight, it's that she is too aggressive. Sigh, she is a socialite in Beijing. How can I be qualified to sit next to the first young Master Qin? When I greeted him just now, I was already thick-skinned just to suppress Yao Yao. But now you want me to sit next to him. I don't usually keep in touch with him. What should I talk about sitting next to him? This will only make each other feel awkward, and it will leave a bad impression. It's good that you know. It seems that you are not in a mess. Yao Yao's father has a relationship with the Qin family. She can sit there, but it's not inappropriate for you to sit there," Zhizuan said faintly. Fong Lu nodded and said, "I know." At this time, the waiters had already poured wine for everyone, and a lot of cold dishes had also been served. Sun Sijia, as the class monitor and the representative to speak at the graduation ceremony, took the initiative to stand up and said, who will say a few words first so that we can officially start. After Sun Sijia said this, no one dared to say anything. Who should say a few words? Of course, it was the person with the highest status in the class, but only strength could determine status, so the person with the highest status was Sun Sijia. However, Sun Sijia was the class monitor, and by right, the class monitor should be the one to speak. No matter who they said, they would offend him. At this time, Zhu Ziyuan very cooperated and said, "Then let Qin Sheng say a few words." Sun Sijia and Zhu Ziyuan echoed each other, complimenting each other. Only they had the confidence to say something like this. Since Zhu Ziyuan had already spoken, of course Yao Yao was happy to let Qin Sheng speak. She took the lead to applaud and said, "Then let Qin Sheng say a few words to us." With Zhu Ziyuan and Yao Yao's words, at this time, the others all applauded and let Qin Sheng speak. However, Qin Sheng did not want to be a noisy guest. He waved his hand and said, "It's not appropriate for me to speak. Let Brother Sun speak. After all, Brother Sun is our class monitor. Brother Sun, don't decline." Qin Sheng did not decline modestly, but took the initiative to return the face to Sun Sijia. After all, Sun Sijia gave him face, and he was the organizer of this class reunion. He was the most appropriate person to speak. At this time, Wei Li also echoed, "Lao Sun, just say it. We are classmates gathering. There are not so many rules." Hearing the words of the two big shots, Sun Sijia said bluntly, "Okay, then I won't decline. Just say a few words." After a few months of learning and communication, we have all become friends. It's rare for us to gather here again today. Most of our friends haven't seen each other for a long time. After all, we are all very busy. I hope we can all drink and chat merrily. I also hope that we can do this every year in the future. I also hope that everyone will get better and better. So let's raise our glasses together and give a toast to ourselves. Sun Sijia made a long story short and did not waste any time. At the end of his speech, he took the initiative to raise his glass and said, "It's not easy for us." Sun Sijia made it short and did not waste any time. At the end of his speech, he took the initiative to raise his glass. At this time, the others also raised their glasses and said, "To us." After saying this, everyone drank up one after another. At least at this moment, everyone's feelings were considered sincere. Chapter 1004. This Tsinghua University Advanced Research class of Economics and Management was not simple. It was not the kind of EMBA or CEO class similar to the national key universities or business schools, such as Tsinghua University School of Economics and Management, Peking University, Guanghua University School of Business, Chinese Business School, Chengkong Business School, and so on. Instead, it was an advanced research class that was held every 5 years. Its purpose was to cultivate leading talents in all walks of life for the country and society. After all, these people came from rich families. Many of their fathers were influential figures or business tycoons in various provinces and cities. Moreover, most of them had master's degrees or doctorates or had studied abroad. Some of them even had MBAs in foreign business schools. Except for people like Qin Sheng and Han Su, almost all of them were working in family businesses or had successfully started their own businesses and gone public. They were so busy that they didn't have time to come to Tsinghua University. It was because Tsinghua University's advanced seminar was not simple. Not to mention the influence and status of Tsinghua University School of Economics and Management in the political and business circles, the Advisory Committee of Economics and Management of Tsinghua University was enough to shock everyone. For example, almost all the professors in the Department of Finance were from Tsinghua University. Secondly, the lecturers were all top figures in the industry. Usually, it was hard to invite business tycoons. Many leaders of ministries and commissions came to teach in person. How many business schools had such treatment? They could directly understand the current domestic and foreign economic situation, policy situation, and the development trend of various industries, and so on. It was definitely not the kind of ordinary EMBA or CEO class used for gilding or making connections. Secondly, it was to make connections. Everyone knew that the students who could join this class had powerful backgrounds. That was why so many people wanted to join this class. Not to mention the previous classes, just looking at the students in this class, how many of the parents of the students in this class were big shots at the provincial level. How many of the students had family businesses that were among the top in their respective provinces and cities. How many of the students had family businesses that were among the top in their respective provinces and cities. When Qin Sheng had just returned to Beijing, Qin Chang'an couldn't wait to arrange this for him. If this advanced seminar was not so important, Qin Chang'an wouldn't have been so anxious. Moreover, Qin Chang'an used a lot of connections to greet several tycoons and members of the Advisory Committee of Economics and Management of Tsinghua University. Finally, Qin Sheng was accepted as a transfer student. No one knew how many people here would become the country's business tycoons or industry leaders in the future, but everyone knew that there would definitely be some of them. As a result, Qin Sheng agreed to attend the class reunion without hesitation. In the past, he might not have cared about it because Qin Chang'an had been in charge of the Qin family at that time. But now that Qin Chang'an had been in trouble, Qin Sheng would be in charge of the Qin family. Qin Sheng had no choice but to plan ahead. It was just that Qin Sheng was not willing to steal Sun Sija's limelight. What was supposed to be Sun Sija's should be Sun Sija's. Otherwise, many students might not say anything on the surface, but could not stop talking about Qin Sheng behind his back. After all, Qin Sheng had a plan for something that would take 10 or 20 years. He would not be so careless. After drinking a glass of wine, there were no other rules, unlike most dining tables that required 3 glasses of wine to start. Everyone's strength was about the same. If someone spoke and someone didn't speak, who could guarantee that someone would be dissatisfied? At this moment, the atmosphere had gradually warmed up and was no longer as awkward as before. After all, Qin Sheng and the others were the lubricant. Moreover, everyone would get along well on the surface. As for the deeper communication between each other in the future, that would be another matter. Although Qin Sheng sat together with Yao Yao, he only drank with her at the beginning. After drinking 2 glasses of wine, he drank and chatted with Wei Li and the others for the rest of the time. After a while, everyone began to stand up and toast each other. After all, there were so many people at such a big table, and some of them might have a lot to say. It was definitely not appropriate to be too far away from each other. Qin Sheng took the initiative to hold a glass of wine and walked over to Sun Sija and Zhu Ziyuan. He, Wei Li, Han Su, and Lao Luo had already drunk too much. Moreover, they were already familiar with each other. If they drank less, there would be more opportunities in the future. Brother Sun, you've worked hard this time. I'll be responsible for the next gathering, Qin Sheng said on his own initiative. Sun Sija said politely, look at what you're saying. It's not hard at all. It's all for us classmates to get together. It's not a big deal. I originally wanted to tell you in advance, but I also know that you have a lot of things to do at home recently, so I didn't disturb you. After Qin Sheng took the initiative to toast Sun Sija, he held up his glass and looked at Zhu Zian, saying, Brother Zhu, this glass is for you. Some things are all in the wine. Why did Qin Sheng say so? It was because Zhu Ziyuan's father had helped him in the crisis of the Qin family this time. Qin Sheng remembered all these things. However, because the Qin family was in a special period, it was not appropriate for Qin Sheng to take the initiative to contact Zhu Ziyuan. Qin Sheng, you're too polite. My father did not help much, but I hope everything is fine with you. Let's drink more when we have the chance, Zhu Ziyuan said with a smile. Sun Sija also echoed, speaking of which, we are all in Beijing. We should contact each other in the future. Don't you think so? That's for sure. What do you think, Qin Sheng? Zhu Ziyuan laughed out loud. Qin Sheng took the opportunity and said, as long as you have time, I can come anytime. In this case, I think we should drink 3 glasses first. Sun Sija held up his glass and filled it for Qin Sheng and Zhu Ziyuan. Zhu Ziyuan was very generous and said, 3 glasses it is. Who's afraid of who? At this time, Fong Lu took the initiative to come over and said, speaking of which, you don't mind having an extra pair of chopsticks when you eat, right? I'm going to settle down in Beijing in the future, so I need you classmates to help me. Sun Sija and Zhu Ziyuan were close to Fong Lu. Of course, they would not say anything. They also knew that Fong Lu's private equity fund would move to Beijing at the end of the year. However, Qin Sheng did not have a good impression of Fong Lu. Nevertheless, he could only say, Who would mind having one more beauty? Hearing this, Sun Sijia and Zhu Zuan laughed out loud. They laughed and clinked glasses 3 times in a row. Fong Lu also drank 3 glasses. This made Yao Yao, who was on the other side, very angry. After chatting with Sun Sijia and Zhu Ziyuan, Qin Sheng drank a few glasses with the other classmates. They also talked about trivial things politely. Since Qin Sheng had taken the initiative, how could they not take this opportunity to get closer to him? Fortunately, Qin Sheng was good at drinking. However, he still could not stand this round of drinks. After all, there were more people tonight. As soon as Qin Sheng sat down, Yao Yao scooped a bowl of soup for him. She handed it to him and said, "Are you okay? Drink some soup. I didn't expect you to be good at drinking." "I think Sister Yao Yao is also good at drinking," Qin Sheng said with a smile. When he was drinking with others just now, he saw Yao Yao come out directly with a decanter. He estimated that she had drunk more than half a bottle of red wine. Yao Yao let out a long sigh and said, "I can't help it. Nowadays, if I don't have a little alcohol tolerance, how dare I go out to socialize? You guys are better at drinking than me. Are we rivals?" "Sister Yao Yao, you still need to take care of yourself," Qin Sheng said politely. At this time, other classmates came over to toast Qin Sheng. Some of them were close to Yao Yao, and some were close to Fong Lu. Zhu Sijia and Sun Sijia also came over one after another. However, when they came over, Yao Yao said a few words in a weird tone, which made them somewhat unhappy. Not long after, Fong Lu came over with a glass of wine. Tonight, neither of them took the initiative to drink with each other. However, the classmates who were close to them did not have any scruples. After all, they were all classmates. Who would really care about other things? At most, they would just drink a glass of wine. As soon as Fong Lu walked over, Yao Yao chuckled and said, "Oh, our social butterfly is here." Hearing what Yao Yao said, Fong Lu's face did not look good, but she did not pay attention to Yao Yao. She just looked at Qin Sheng and said, "Qin Sheng, when you are free, I will invite Sister Song to have a meal with you. At that time, you must do me the honor." "As long as she is free, I will definitely come," Qin Sheng said politely. At this time, Yao Yao said again, "You speak as if you are very familiar with each other." This time, Fong Lu did not flinch. She said directly, "At least more familiar than you." After that, Fong Lu raised her glass and looked at Qin Sheng. "Qin Sheng, come, let's drink." Fong Lu's glass was half full. Originally, Qin Sheng thought that Fong Lu was just being polite. He did not expect that Fong Lu would directly drink it. This made Qin Sheng feel embarrassed to only drink a small glass. Fortunately, there was not much in the wine divider, but there was still half of it. Qin Sheng had no choice but to raise the wine divider and drink it in one go. Maybe because he drank in a hurry, Qin Sheng almost choked. At this time, Yao Yao quickly took the soup and handed it to Qin Sheng. She said, "Qin Sheng, drink some soup." Fong Lu just picked up the towel and was about to pass it to Qin Sheng. Unfortunately, she was half a beat slower than Yao Yao. She stopped in the air awkwardly. Yao Yao looked at Fong Lu as if to show off. Fong Lu could not help but say, "Sister Yao Yao is really good at taking care of people. Definitely better than you," Yao Yao said with a disdainful smile. Since Fong Lu came over, Yao Yao had been interrupting in a weird way. Fong Lu could not bear it anymore. Now that she had drunk so much wine, she took the opportunity to reply, "Well, in terms of taking care of people, I have heard about your ability." When Fong Lu said this, she deliberately emphasized the word "take care of." This sentence sounded very wrong in an instant. Many people more or less knew about Yao Yao's matter, but they were all rumors and gossips in private. However, when Fong Lu put on the table, it was different. As expected, when Yao Yao heard this sentence, her expression changed instantly. She snorted and said, "Fong Lu, what do you mean?" "Sister Yao Yao, what do I mean?" "Sister Yao Yao knows it better than me," Fong Lu replied without backing down. This sentence instantly ignited Yao Yao's anger. Qin Sheng already felt that something was wrong. Just when he was about to say something to ease the atmosphere, Yao Yao suddenly picked up the red wine glass in front of her and directly splashed it on Yao Yao's face. At the same time, she scolded, "You slut, I dare you to say that again. Qin Sheng was dumbfounded. The others were also watching the situation because they knew that nothing good would happen when the two women were together. Even though they were sitting far away from them, they could still feel the fight. However, they did not expect that Yao Yao would directly pour wine on Fong Lu. Everyone was stunned, not to mention the others. Even Fong Lu herself was stunned. She looked at Yao Yao in disbelief. At the same time, she could not hide the anger in her eyes. Chapter 1005. It did not occur to Qin Sheng that the two women would fight openly and secretly to such an extent. They would not let go of any opportunity. Yao Yao was aggressive toward Fong Lu, and Fong Lu also fought back against Yao Yao repeatedly. Neither of them wanted to give in to the other. They were determined to fight to the death with each other. Now, both sides had escalated from verbal attacks to physical attacks. Perhaps it was because Yao Yao was drunk that she acted so impulsively. Or perhaps it was because Fong Lu's words had stabbed into Yao Yao's sore spot. Because no one knew what Yao Yao's life was like, everyone was just passing on the rumors. In the end, even the fake rumors became the truth. However, these were all things that happened under the table. Fong Lu's sarcasm towards Yao Yao. After all, Yao Yao was from a prestigious family. How could she endure it? But at this moment, no one could control the situation anymore. Fong Lu was the first to come to her senses. She was in a mess. Her clothes and hair were wet, and her makeup was ruined. She stared at Yao Yao and said, "How dare you pour wine on me? I'll kill you." Before anyone could react, Fong Lu rushed towards Yao Yao and grabbed Yao Yao's hair. Yao Yao didn't hold back and fought back. The two of them instantly started fighting. The scene was completely chaotic. No one expected that this classmate reunion would cause the two beauties to tear each other's faces. At this time, everyone had come back to their senses. Everyone rushed over, especially Yao Yao and Fong Lu's friends. Qin Sheng was the closest to the two of them. He could only hold Fong Lu and pull her back. However, the two of them were already wrestling with each other. It was impossible for him to pull them apart by himself. Fortunately, Sun Sijia, Zhu Ziyuan, and the others had arrived. With everyone's efforts, they managed to pull Yao Yao and Fong Lu apart. Fong Lu was pulled to the rest area, while Yao Yao was pulled to the floor-to-ceiling window. Qin Sheng finally let out a long sigh of relief. He slowly sat down on a seat and quickly drank a few mouthfuls of water to calm himself down. They were all respectable people. They had good looks, good temperament, good family background, and good ability. Why did they look like shrews making trouble? If this was spread out, people would laugh at them. They really didn't know what Fong Lu and Yao Yao were thinking. They made a good reunion like this. Qin Sheng, Wei Li, and the others looked at each other. What should they do now? Should the reunion continue? As for Yao Yao and Fong Lu, they were lucky that they were only tearing at their hair. If they were to tear at their clothes, it would be a little too much. Perhaps it was because they separated in time that they did not allow them to continue. If it were just the two of them, who knew what would have happened? However, they still looked a little disheveled at the moment. It was a world of difference from their delicate looks at the beginning. Their hair, which had taken them a few hours to do, was now a mess. Fong Lu was in an even worse state. The red wine splashed on her face had ruined all her makeup. Yao Yao shouted, "Let go of me, both of you. I'm going to tear this slut's mouth apart today. Let's see if she dares to talk nonsense again in the future." Yao Yao said, "Let go of me. Come on, come at me if you can. Let me see how good you are. Who doesn't know about the things you've done?" Fong Lu also struggled, wanting to go over. Yao Yao got angrier and angrier. She scolded, "You bitch. Say one more word. Who do you think you are? Look at your coquettish face every day." The more they talked, the more vicious they were. Zhu Ziyuan, who was on Fong Lu's side, couldn't help but say, "Yao Yao, that's enough." Yao Yao heard Zhu Ziyuan yelling at her. She directly turned hostile and said, "Zhu Ziyuan, you are not a good person. You are so close to that coquettish fox. Is there anything between you two?" Zhu Ziyuan didn't expect Yao Yao to attack him. He said angrily, "Yao Yao, that's enough." Fong Lu deliberately sneered. "What about us? It's normal for men and women to get married. Everyone is like you, seducing men outside. Don't you feel ashamed? Fong Lu, can you shut up? A classmate on Yao Yao's side scolded. The more he said, the more outrageous it was. Fong Lu didn't take it seriously at all. She said, "What? Lao Tan, you jumped out. Is there something between you two? You bitch. I'm going to tear your mouth apart. Let go of me. Whoever stops me today, don't blame me for turning against you." Yao Yao was completely angry. She used all her strength to struggle to go over. The people on both sides were talking at once. Some tried to persuade Yao Yao and Fong Lu, while others blamed each other. Anyway, it was a mess. Some people on Qin Sheng's side also went over to persuade them. For example, Lao Luo and Tang couldn't stand it anymore. They didn't want to make it too embarrassing. Otherwise, only Yao Yao and Fong Lu would attend the party in the future. If both of them came, they would definitely quarrel again. At this time, Qin Sheng also couldn't stand it anymore. He slowly stood up and turned his head. "You guys are so noisy. Are we still going to eat or drink?" However, Qin Sheng's words were not powerful at all, because everyone's attention was not on him now. Maybe it was too noisy and Qin Sheng's words had already been drowned out. However, when Qin Sheng saw that no one was paying attention to him, he became angrier. He directly picked up the plate and smashed it on the ground. He said angrily, "All of you shut up." Qin Sheng's sudden movement instantly stunned everyone on the scene. After all, everyone was still very afraid of Qin Sheng. Seeing that Qin Sheng was so angry, no one dared to speak for a while. Qin Sheng pointed at Fong Lu and Yao Yao and said, "Look at you two. What a mess you made in a class gathering. You are both dignified people. Why are you acting like shrews now? You're not afraid of being laughed at by others, but we are afraid of being laughed at by others. Or did you forget your surname after drinking a little? If you have a problem with each other, don't contact each other in the future. Don't make these classmates stand on your side." When Qin Sheng finished his words, Fong Lu and Yao Yao wanted to refute him. However, Qin Sheng suddenly stared at them with a malicious look. When they saw Qin Sheng's eyes, they were so scared that they did not dare to say anything. At that moment, Qin Sheng's eyes were really a little scary, like a murderous look. They had never seen such a look. Qin Sheng looked at Fong Lu and made arrangements. "Brother's son, Lao Zhu, send Fong Lu back." At this time, Qin Sheng looked at Yao Yao and said, "Li Zhe, Tam Luan, send Yao Yao back and let them calm down. If there is anything else, we can talk about it tomorrow when they are sober." After Qin Sheng made the arrangements, it seemed that no one moved. They did not know whether they should listen to Qin Sheng or not. Seeing that no one moved, Qin Sheng snorted with a gloomy face. "What? Are you not satisfied with my arrangements?" Sun Sijia and Zhu Ziyuan looked at each other. At this time, no one dared to offend Qin Sheng. They immediately said to Fong Lu in a low voice, "Fong Lu, let's go. Don't make trouble today. Otherwise, everyone will have a problem with you. Don't make your classmates unhappy." At this time, Fong Lu also sobered up a lot. She could feel Qin Sheng's anger. It seemed that she had to call Qin Sheng tomorrow to apologize. In the end, she had no choice but to nod and leave with Sun Sijia and Zhu Ziyuan. Since Fong Lu had already done so, if Yao Yao did not leave, all the blame would fall on her. Moreover, she was the one who took the initiative to splash red wine on Fong Lu. Originally, she was in the wrong. Yao Yao had no choice but to follow Fong Lu and leave. The farce was finally over. The other students breathed a sigh of relief. After the two troublemakers left, Qin Sheng smiled and eased the atmosphere. "Well, it is normal for classmates to have some conflicts. There is nothing that cannot be solved. Now think about what we should do. If you're not full, we will continue to eat and drink here. If you feel full, we can go somewhere else to drink. I will arrange everything tonight. If you feel that you have drunk too much, I will send someone to send you back to the hotel to rest. What do you think? How much have you drunk? Let's go somewhere else to drink." It was rare for Qin Sheng to take the initiative. Naturally, no one wanted to make him lose face. At this time, someone said, "Let's go somewhere else. It is too disappointing to stay here." After everyone expressed their opinions, Qin Sheng immediately made a phone call to arrange the second party. After listening to everyone's opinions, he finally chose a quiet bar. Because they still needed to talk about something and did not want to be disturbed, a bar or a nightclub that was too noisy was not suitable. As for other places, needless to say, they were all rich playboys who had seen all kinds of things. It was meaningless to invite them to play other places. Therefore, Qin Sheng contacted a bar with good resident singers from his friend. For the sake of quietness and safety, Qin Sheng directly booked the whole place. When Qin Sheng brought everyone over, everything had already been arranged. There was only a long table in the middle of the whole bar. All kinds of snacks and fruit plates were placed on the table, waiting for everyone to come. The atmosphere in the second half of the banquet was very lively. Compared to the social intercourse during dinner, this was the real heart-to-heart talk. Everyone was drinking in pairs and drinking until they were drunk. There were even some who went up to sing for everyone to liven things up. There were also many friends who went to the side to have a heart-to-heart talk. Perhaps they had other things to talk about. In short, the atmosphere was very lively. After Zhu Ziyuan, Sun Sijia, and the other two classmates sent Yao Yao and Fong Lu back, they also came to the second half of the bar after a while. After all, everyone was still there. It would be inappropriate if they did not come. When they arrived and saw this scene, they could not help but admire Qin Sheng's ability to organize. They had never seen these classmates get together and drink like this. In the end, they did not stop until 4 o'clock in the morning. Qin Sheng had already asked Chang Baji to arrange several drivers to send these classmates back to the hotel or home. Only in this way could he rest assured. Otherwise, it would not look good if something happened to anyone. Qin Sheng was also very drunk. In the end, he directly slept in Han Su and Wei Li's hotel. Most of the classmates who came from other places also stayed here. Some of them who were drunk and did not go home also stayed here. When everyone woke up the next day, it was already afternoon. Qin Sheng arranged for everyone to have dinner before they left. Some of them stayed in Beijing to deal with some work. For example, Wei Li would stay for a few more days this time. Some of them came for the class reunion and would go back directly today. Qin Sheng said goodbye to everyone. At least this time, his relationship with his classmates was much closer, especially during the second round last night. Almost everyone was centered around him. Otherwise, why would Qin Sheng drink so much? Because everyone saw the real Qin Sheng, a Qin Sheng who was similar to them. Therefore, Qin Sheng still had to thank Fong Lu and Yao Yao. They gave Qin Sheng the opportunity, and by a free combination of factors, they also made Qin Sheng a success. After the class reunion ended, Qin Sheng did not stop socializing. He had all kinds of friends, and there were also more and more unfamiliar names in his WeChat and contact list. No one knew how many of these unfamiliar names would become friends in the end. It all depended on how Qin Sheng walked in the future. In such a rhythm, it was already the end of the month. Qin Sheng had already arranged everything in advance. On the morning that Lin Su went to the U.S., Qin Sheng set off for Shanghai. Chapter 1006. Welcome to Lao Guan's official WeChat account, WeChat. You can scan the code to join the WeChat reader group. If the group is full, please add my assistant's WeChat and add you to the group. I will report the news of the counterattack and the situation of the new book in the group. Thank you for your support. Time passed quickly. It was already the end of the month before the blink of an eye. Qin Sheng arranged things at home. Actually, it was not a big deal. His aunt and sister could keep an eye on him. Moreover, he had such a large team. Nothing would go wrong. Qin Sheng only needed to come back when the second contract was signed. Qin Sheng did not hide his itinerary from Song Ruyu. He told her that he was going to Shanghai for a business trip for 2 days. However, he did not tell her that he was going to see Lin Su off. He only said that he was going to see Bao Fan, the person in charge of the Qin family in Shanghai. He had something to discuss with Bao Fan, which was related to the integration of the Qin family's assets. Bao Fan was one of the 3 giants of the Qin family. However, even if Song Ruyu knew it, Qin Sheng would face it calmly. He was going to see Lin Su off for the last time. They might not see each other for 2 or 3 years. Song Ruyu would not say anything, because she was generous enough. Song Ruyu didn't say anything. In fact, Qin Sheng didn't have to tell her so many details. Of course, she also knew that Qin Sheng respected her. However, she had been busy recently, so she didn't see Qin Sheng often. Anyway, they were engaged, so it didn't involve other things. Zhao Anji chose a wedding house for Qin Sheng and Song Ruyu, which they would live in after they got married. It was relatively close to Song Ruyu's workplace. After all, they should have their own private life after they got married. They could not always live together with their family. They could come back to live occasionally on weekends or holidays. Qin Sheng completely left this matter to Song Ruyu. Anyway, he did not care about these things. As long as there was a good study, he did not care about anything else. However, women had higher requirements for these things. After all, this was their home in the future. Maybe Song Ryu had her own ideas, so it was better to follow her requirements. Qin Sheng was only responsible for paying. Zhao Anji was more careful than Qin Sheng. She found a well-known design team and asked them to contact Song Ryu. Therefore, Song Ryu was also quite busy recently. Going back to Shanghai after so many months, he felt both familiar and strange at the same time. The familiar thing was that he was too familiar with this city. Apart from Xin, the city he had stayed in the longest was Shanghai. The strange thing was that he was no longer that Qin Sheng. Many things had changed. Chang Baji and Hao Lei followed Qin Sheng back to Shanghai. Currently, there was nothing going on in Shanghai. After all, the biggest threat, Yin Chaozong, had died long ago. As for the group of people in Zhujiang, they had no time to care about Qin Sheng. No one knew when the internal strife would end. Qin Sheng did not have the time to care about them. On the plane, Hao Lei took the initiative to tell Qin Sheng, "I heard from Han Bing that Lin Su's sister, Lin Yu, will accompany her to the United States, so you don't have to worry too much." Qin Sheng already knew that Lin Yu would accompany Lin Su to the United States. It was possible that Lin Yu would stay with Lin Su until the postpartum period. Qin Sheng also knew that Lin Su would live in Los Angeles. Moreover, Qin Sheng had arranged a lot of things. As long as Lin Su arrived in the United States, she would not need to worry about the rest of the things. This was the last thing Qin Sheng could do for Lin Su. Of course, Xue Qingyan told Qin Sheng about Lin Su's arrangement. Then, Qin Sheng discussed with Xue Qingyan. He would let Lin Su live in the Qin family's villa in Los Angeles. However, he asked Xue Qingyan to tell Lin Su that it was her friend's house. The Qin family had a lot of political and business connections in the United States, which were built by Qin Chang'an over the years. He had a personal relationship with many Wall Street tycoons. Not to mention Chang'an's branch in North America, the Qin family also had a branch in the United States. Qin Sheng had already called the person in charge there. If Lin Su had any problems in the United States, she would turn to him. Of course, he would ask Xue Qingyan to tell Lin Su that it was her friend's house. Moreover, the Lin family also had relatives, friends, and branches in the United States. Qin Sheng did not need to worry about many things, but he just wanted to be safe. "I know." Qin Sheng nodded silently. Hao Lei continued. "Han Bing and Sister Qingyan will see Lin Su and Lin Yu off." Lin Su did not ask the other members of the Lin family to see them off. What Hao Lei meant was that Qin Sheng did not need to worry about meeting the other members of the Lin family, which would save him trouble and embarrassment. Otherwise, if the Lin family made a scene at the airport, it would not be good for Qin Sheng and Lin Su. When Qin Sheng and Lin Su arrived in Shanghai, it was only after 10 o'clock. They did not go to the downtown area directly. Otherwise, it would be too late to come to Pudong. Qin Sheng went directly to Bao Fan's manor in the suburbs of Pudong. He had been there several times before. At this moment, Bao Fan was also waiting for him there. He could take advantage of this time to talk about something. Weixin's search, Guangzhong Old Man, or Xlorin. Follow and scan the code to join the reader group. If the group is full, please add the assistant's WeChat below to add you. In Lin Su's apartment in Pudong New Area, Xue Qingyan and Han Bing had arrived. Lin Su was packing her things. Lin Yu had already packed her things. She did not tell her parents that she was going to the United States. She just said that she was going to accompany her sister to relax. She would tell her family when they arrived in the United States. At that time, they would not say anything. Actually, she did not need to bring too many things. Almost everything could be bought later. She only needed to bring a few changes of clothes and her beloved things. Lin Su had too many memories with Qin Sheng in Shanghai. Maybe she would feel more comfortable after leaving Shanghai. But why did she forget about Qin Sheng? Sister, you must take good care of yourself when you go there. I will visit you often, Han Bing could not help but say. She used to like Qin Sheng, but because Qin Sheng had Lin Su, she felt a little sad and envious of Lin Su. Later, she let go of Qin Sheng and chose Hao Lei. Unexpectedly, Qin Sheng broke up with Lin Su in the end. She really did not know what to say about fate. After Lin Su finished packing, she said, "You also need to take good care of yourself. Remember to inform me when you and Hao Lei get married. As long as I have time, I will definitely come back to attend your wedding." Lin Su had already known about Han Bing and Hao Lei. She felt that this was actually quite good. Hao Lei was a warm man who knew how to take care of others, and Han Bing needed someone to care and love. They were just right for each other. This kind of love could last. Definitely, Han Bing nodded and said. Parting always made people sad. Han Bing did not want to say too many sad words, but she was still somewhat depressed. I have arranged everything there. Anyway, I often go to the United States on business. We will definitely see each other often in the future, Xue Qingyan said as she held Lin Su's shoulder. She was really reluctant to leave Lin Su. After all, during this period of time, they were the closest to each other. They almost lived together. How could she bear to separate like this? Sister, thank you for this period of time, Lin Su said very sincerely. Xue Qingyan laughed and said, "Why are you saying this? We are all sisters, aren't we?" Seeing that everyone was so sad, Lin Yu was afraid that it would affect her sister's mood. So she said, Everyone, don't be so sad. Whether it is the United States or anywhere else, it is only a dozen hours by plane. We can definitely see each other whenever we want." Lin Yu is right, Han Bing said with a smile. Xue Qingyan looked at the time and said, "It is almost time. We should go to the airport. Don't miss the plane." Okay, Lin Su nodded. After that, everyone took their luggage and went out. At the moment when they closed the door, Lin Su could not help but feel tears in her eyes. It seemed that she saw Qin Sheng's shadow. He was standing inside, waving to her and saying goodbye. She really missed Qin Sheng because she had not seen him for a few months. If she had known that the final result would be like this, she would definitely cherish every day and every second with Qin Sheng. She would not be like now, only regretting after losing him. On the way to the airport, no one spoke. The atmosphere in the car was more solemn. They wanted to say something, but did not know how to say it. It was better to let Lin Su wait quietly. After all, once she left, no one knew when she would come back again. She had never met a man like him before. He opened up a whole new world for her in an instant. Just like that, they wandered around southwest Sichuan aimlessly. During that period of time, she was really happy. There were new challenges and experiences every day, and it was too much for her to take in. She had never met a man like him before. He opened up a whole new world for her in an instant. They wandered around southwest Sichuan aimlessly. During that period of time, she was really happy. Every day was a new challenge and experience. It was too much for her to take in. After that, she returned to Shanghai and worked and lived a quiet life. Originally, she could have listened to her family's arrangement step by step and finally married Yin Chaozong, a well-matched rich man. However, she did not expect to meet Qin Sheng again in Shanghai. At that moment, Lin Su chose to let go of everything to pursue her own happiness. In front of her family, she chose love. It could be seen how much pressure she had to face. In the end, that was the truth. They had experienced many things, including life and death, but they had survived it all. In the end, they had come together. During that period of time, life was very hard, but also very happy, because she had Qin Sheng by her side. After that, Qin Sheng had found his biological father and returned to the Qin family. She did not think much about it, because she knew that Qin Sheng would definitely marry her, because she knew that Qin Sheng loved her deeply. She was also waiting to marry Qin Sheng and eventually become a woman who would take care of her husband and children. She was willing to give up everything for Qin Sheng, whether it was in the past, now, or in the future. However, she had never imagined that this would be the result. The high-rise buildings in Pudong were gradually disappearing, and the busy city was getting further and further away. Lin Su originally wanted to slow down time even more, so that she could take a good look at the city again and recall the memories that belonged to her and Qin Sheng. But how slow could it be? After getting out of the car, Xue Qingyan and Han Bing led Lin Su and Lin Yu into the airport. Lin Su and Lin Yu went to the class to register and check their luggage. Xue Qingyan and Han Bing, who stood behind them, were a little anxious because they had not seen Qin Sheng yet. Han Bing frowned and said, "Sister Qingyan, why is Qin Sheng not here yet? Weren't they already in Shanghai? Is he stuck on the road?" Xue Qingyan shook her head and said, "I don't know. Maybe he doesn't want to come. Then should we wait a little longer? Let's buy some time for Qin Sheng." Han Bing could not help but say. Xue Qingyan was a little displeased and said, "No need. If he really wanted to come, he would have come a long time ago. If he doesn't want to come, he won't come no matter how long we wait. Maybe they're not destined to be together. If he really wants to see Lin Su, then go to the United States to find Lin Su." Seeing Xue Qingyan's attitude, Han Bing could not say anything, for fear that Lin Su would hear about Qin Sheng. At the check-in counter for the first-class cabin of Eastern Airlines, Lin Yu hesitated for a moment and asked, "Sister, does he know that you are leaving today?" Lin Su shook her head. In fact, she was not as fragile as others thought, and she did not mind others talking about Qin Sheng in front of her. After all, they used to have each other. Why would she run away now? Lin Yu continued to ask, "Sister, do you think he will come?" Lin Su still shook her head. She did not have any hope, nor would she have any fantasy, because she knew Qin Sheng's current situation. Lin Yu said no more. Oh. Soon, Lin Su and Lin Yu finished the check-in. When they came back, Han Bing could not help but say, "Wait a minute, I'll go buy something to drink." Lin Su said faintly, "No need, let's go through the security check." Han Bing had no choice but to give up. She looked at Sister Qingyan, hoping that Xue Qingyan would say something, but Xue Qingyan did not mean it all, and said directly, "Okay, let's go through the security check." Han Bin was completely helpless. It seemed that they would really miss it. Just now, she secretly called Hao Lei, but Hao Lei did not answer, which made Han Bing a little angry. After passing the security check, it actually meant that Lin Su had already stepped on the plane to the United States. Even if Qin Sheng wanted to see her, he would not be able to. From then on, they would be separated, and no one knew when they would meet again. Lin Su kept her head down and walked forward. No one knew what she was thinking. When she turned the corner, the others suddenly stopped. Lin Su looked up subconsciously and saw a man standing not far away, staring at her. At this moment, Lin Su could not help but burst into tears behind her. Xue Qingyan let out a long sigh of relief. She was really a little worried that Qin Sheng would not be able to catch up, then she would be really disappointed in him. Han Bing was completely relieved. It seemed that Qin Sheng had been here for a long time, but he had been waiting here. As for Lin Yu, she finally understood what her sister said about brother-in-law's helplessness. If they no longer loved each other, brother-in-law would not come to see her sister off, which meant that brother-in-law still loved her sister. Lin Su looked at Qin Sheng with tears flowing down her cheeks. Time seemed to have stopped at this moment. She just watched as Qin Sheng walked step by step to her and finally slowly hugged her. Her tears were already falling like rain, and she did not know what to say. "Sorry, I'm late," Qin Sheng said with some guilt. Lin Su sobbed. "Actually, I knew that you would definitely come." Listening to Lin Su's crying, Qin Sheng was even more heartbroken. He gritted his teeth and said, "Do you hate me?" "No, why should I hate you? You have already given me the best thing," Lin Su said with a smile, trying hard to wipe away her tears. The more Lin Su said this, the more Qin Sheng could not face Lin Su. He could only say, "If you believe me, then wait for me. Wait for me to fulfill my promise." Okay. Lin Su nodded heavily. Lin Su actually wanted to ask, "Will you come to see me?" But she knew that it was uncertain when he would come back. Chapter 1007. Not every encounter would have a result, but every encounter had a meaning. Some people were only suitable for you to grow. Some stories were only suitable for collecting, but there were also some people and things that you would never forget and remember for the rest of your life. Ever since they met in Chengdu, Qin Sheng and Lin Su had gone through so many ups and downs. When they first met in southwest Sichuan, they traveled together, enjoyed the beautiful scenery of the mountains, and watched the brilliant galaxy. Tears of joy when we reunited in Shanghai. From then on, you and I depended on each other and did not want to be separated. Love bloomed at this moment. Life was perfect at this moment. When they were seeking refuge in Xiamen, they had just survived a great calamity and were together in life and death. From then on, they never left each other. They knew each other well and were very happy. When we were struggling in Hangzhou, I knew your heart and you knew mine. Starting from scratch again, as long as you and I were together, it was okay. After returning to Shanghai, his life became stable, his love became stronger, and his life reached its peak. In this life, he knew that his hair had turned white. After the wind and rain, he finally saw the rainbow, and only after the hardships would there be true love. It was just that Qin Sheng had returned to the Qin family. It was just that the Qin family was in trouble, and Lin Su could do nothing about it. In the end, Qin Sheng made such a choice. This was the result that Lin Su had been waiting for. In fact, no one could be blamed except for the fact that fate made fools of people. If Qin Sheng had chosen Lin Su and given up the Qin family in the end, Lin Su would be the one who would feel guilty. It might be hard for her to forgive herself, and she would not be able to face the people of the Qin family. Therefore, Qin Sheng took the initiative to make a choice. He would let himself bear all the mistakes and let him face everyone as a scumbag and a heartless man. Airports and hospitals will always witness more parting of life and death. At this moment, at this security checkpoint, it was unknown how many relatives and lovers were separated. In the face of life, it seemed that many things were very fragile. Things that were once thought to be incomparably sturdy were broken just like that. Qin Sheng only held Lin Su in his arms. Lin Su also did not want to let go of Qin Sheng, because they both knew that once they parted, they would not know when they would meet again. No one could bear to part with him. Unknowingly, Qin Sheng and Lin Su had been together for so many years. They had a tacit understanding more than any other couple. Qin Sheng knew Lin Su's grievances, and Lin Su also knew Qin Sheng's pain. That was why Lin Su said that she did not hate Qin Sheng. Why should she hate him? In this vast sea of people, it was not easy to get to know each other, let alone fall in love. Lin Su had long known that Qin Sheng would definitely come to see her off. It was not that someone had told her secretly, but that she had firmly believed that he would come back. This kind of trust was illogical. It was more like a kind of telepathy. In the end, she won. The others just looked at the couple who were hugging and crying. It was really not easy for them to come this far. Nobody knew when Hao Lei was already standing beside Han Bing, hugging her quietly and gently wiping away her tears. When Han Bing came back to her senses and saw that it was Hao Lei, she pounded on Hao Lei's chest coquettishly. He must have known that Qin Sheng would be waiting for Lin Su here, so he deliberately did not pick up the call. Lin Yu's eyes were red. She could not bear to see her sister and brother-in-law leave each other. Why were people in love always like this? Was love really a luxury? It seemed like it was true sometimes. As for Xue Qingyan, Qin Sheng did not let her down after all. If Qin Sheng really did not come because he wanted to escape, Xue Qingyan would probably overturn her approval of Qin Sheng and gradually stay away from him. Because Qin Sheng did not even dare to face her. How could such a man take responsibility? Such a man was not worthy of Xue Qingyan's love. After a long time, Qin Sheng and Lin Su finally separated. Qin Sheng took out a tissue to wipe away the tears on Lin Su's face and said, "Do you know, when you cry, it makes my heart ache the most. Every time this happens, I think, I will never let you cry again in this life. But every time, it is me who makes you cry. Then I won't cry anymore." Lin Su raised her head and said with a strong smile. Qin Sheng could not help but touch Lin Su's hair and said, I'm going to leave soon. It's a little hypocritical and pretentious to say that I can't bear to let you go, because I can't make you stay. I can only say that I hope you can take care of yourself, for you, for me, and more importantly, for a child. When things here are over, I will go to America to see you. But I can't tell you the exact time, because I don't want to disappoint you. I hope you can understand. It's enough to hear you say this, Lin Su said contentedly. The more Lin Su gave in, the more Qin Sheng felt sad and guilty. It seemed that people were all like this. When they were in the wrong, they hoped that others would beat and scold them. It seemed that they would feel better in this way. Unfortunately, they always could not get what they wanted. Take care of yourself in America. I know Sister Qin Yin has arranged everything for you. If anything happens, don't forget that you have me, Qin Sheng continued. Lin Su nodded firmly and said, I will take care of myself. You also have to take care of yourself. Although I can't help you with anything, I will always support you, because I can't leave you in this life. I know, Qin Sheng said, gritting his teeth. It was almost time. Shui Qinyin felt that it was time for them to say goodbye, so she walked over to remind Lin Su and Qin Sheng, it's almost time, let's go. Lin Su was reluctant to leave, but Qin Sheng was really reluctant. Then I'm leaving. Lin Su let go of Qin Sheng and said. Qin Sheng looked around blankly and did not know what to say. How many people could understand the pain of the person he deeply loved, wanting to stay, but could not? Okay. Qin Sheng nodded silently. Lin Su looked at Qin Sheng in a daze, as if she wanted to engrave Qin Sheng's appearance in the depths of her heart. In the end, she held back her tears and turned around. The moment she turned around, her tears fell like rain again. At this moment, Qin Sheng also could not help but cry, because Lin Su's turning around made him feel so sorry. Just when Qin Sheng was about to watch Lin Su leave, Lin Su suddenly turned around and ran back. She threw herself into Qin Sheng's arms and hugged his neck tightly. She kissed Qin Sheng unscrupulously. This was her last courage and also her last love, because at least at this moment, she could still have Qin Sheng. Qin Sheng was a little confused at first, but when he came back to his senses, he did not care about anything else and responded to Lin Su passionately. No matter how others looked at him, this was a familiar feeling to him, but also a feeling that he had not felt for a long time. The two kissed without any scruples because this was a farewell kiss. This scene moved everyone, stirred everyone's emotions, and made everyone sigh. However, no one could change the situation. After a long time, Qin Sheng finally separated from Lin Su. They almost separated at the same time, looking at each other affectionately. They just looked at each other affectionately, saying nothing and doing nothing. It was enough for them to just look at each other. As time went by, no one disturbed them. In the end, Lin Su took the initiative to say, I'm leaving. Okay. Lin Su just nodded, unwilling to say anything more. Lin Su took 2 steps back, turned around decisively, and did not want to stay anymore. This time, she did not look back, just kept walking forward, and finally disappeared from Qin Sheng's sight. Behind her, Qin Sheng's eyes were blurred by tears. In a vast sea of people who would treat you kindly. Was it me? Yes, it must be me. After Lin Su and Lin Yu passed the security check, Shui Qingyan walked over and comforted Qin Sheng. Let's go back. Qin Sheng wiped his tears and turned around, saying, Sister, thank you. Shui Qingyan shook her head and smiled bitterly. What are you thanking me for? Lin Su is also my friend. I thought you would not come. I was really worried. Sister, do you think I'm that kind of person? I guess if I did not come, you would not recognize me in this life, Qin Sheng said half-jokingly. Shui Qingyan stared at him and said, Fortunately, you did not let me down. Qin Sheng let out a long sigh and said, I have already disappointed many people. How could I let you down again? Shui Qingyan sighed and said, That's good. At this time, Qin Sheng walked to Han Bing and Hao Lei and said, Han Bing, I will leave Hao Lei to you. Enjoy your time together. I will inform him when we return to Beijing. Han Bing was somewhat embarrassed in front of Qin Sheng. After all, she used to like Qin Sheng, but later knew that it was impossible for them to be together. Qin Sheng felt more like a sister to her. After all, before her father left, she was handed over to Qin Sheng, asking him to take good care of her. Later, after spending time with Hao Lei, she gradually developed feelings for him and fell in love with him. Han Bing lowered her head in embarrassment. Hao Lei quickly said, "Hurry up and do your thing. Don't disturb us." Qin Sheng smiled and left, while Xue Qingyan followed him out of the airport. This matter was finally over. She hoped that everything was fine with Lin Su, and also hoped that Qin Sheng could walk out of the quagmire of the Qin family as soon as possible. On the way back to the city, Qin Sheng personally became Xue Qingyan's driver. Qin Sheng, who had not driven for a long time, was somewhat out of practice. When he started the car, he was a little fierce, which made Xue Qingyan not know whether to laugh or cry, and a little worried. Fortunately, Qin Sheng found the mood soon. Xue Qingyan, who was sitting in the passenger seat, said half-jokingly, "Congratulations, young Master Qin. I already know about the grand occasion of your engagement from Shanghai." "I can't decide these things, sister. Don't make fun of me," Qin Sheng quickly admitted. Xue Qingyan did not dwell on this topic. Otherwise, Qin Sheng would definitely be speechless. After all, this was Qin Sheng. She also understood the situation. If it was someone else, Xue Qingyan would definitely not let it go so easily. "How is the Qin family now? The situation has changed, right?" Xue Qingyan asked with concern. Qin Sheng thought for a moment and said, "It has entered a critical period. The Qin family is selling their shares of the Chong and system, and it will basically be done before the Spring Festival. At that time, the Chong and system will have nothing to do with the Qin family, and the Qin family can be regarded as a hero to cut off their wrists." This news shocked Xue Qingyan a little bit. She did not expect that the Qin family would have such great courage, and she said in surprise, "The Chong and system was established by your father almost from scratch, and it took him decades to do so. And you just gave it up like this? When it is time to give up, we should give up. Without the old man, do you think our Qin family can still control the Chong and system?" A tall tree always attracts the wind, and it will always arouse jealousy, and other situations will happen sooner or later. It is better to make plans again and focus on the old man. Without the Chong and system, there is still the Qin family itself. As long as there is life, there is hope. Sooner or later, the Qin family will establish a new Chong and system. Qin Sheng explained in this way, thinking that Xue Qingyan would understand. Xue Qingyan thought about it and agreed. Since the Qin family had made this decision, they must have made a plan, and she did not care about it anymore, but just asked, "Then who did you sell the shares to?" Xue Qingyan also wanted to know who was so rich that he could buy the shares of the Chong and system in the hands of the Qin family, which was not ordinary. Qin Sheng said slowly, "Sixth uncle." When hearing this name, Xue Qingyan was completely speechless. What kind of operation was this? Chapter 1008. Xue Qingyan could understand if the Qin family gave up the Chong and group. After all, as Qin Sheng said, the Qin family could not control the Chong group now. Without Qin Chang'an, the pillar of the Qin family, it would only cause more trouble if it stayed in the hands of the Qin family. Because a tall tree attracts the wind, the Qin family would eventually get into all kinds of trouble. Therefore, giving up the Chong and group in exchange for the most practical benefits was the most realistic and reasonable choice. However, Xue Qingyan did not understand why the Qin family would sell the shares to the sixth uncle, the sworn enemy of the Qin family. After Xue Qingyan came to her senses, she looked at Qin Sheng seriously and leaned forward subconsciously. She frowned and said, "Sell the shares to the sixth uncle? What on earth is the Qin family thinking? After fighting with the sixth uncle for so long, you finally took back the control of the Chong and group. Now you want to give up the shares. Are you admitting defeat or what?" Qin Sheng knew that if the news was known by others, they would have the same reaction as Xue Qingyan. No one could understand the Qin family's trick. Qin Sheng chuckled and said, "Sister, just take it that our Qin family admits defeat." Xue Qingyan said angrily, "Be honest. What's going on? I don't think the Qin family will admit defeat so easily. After all, it was not easy for you to turn the situation around. Now everyone thinks the storm of the Qin family is about to pass. Sister, do you think it will be so easy? Others don't know, but we do. Qin Sheng shook his head and sighed bitterly. Shui Qingyan continued to ask, what on earth is going on? Selling the shares to the sixth uncle is not admitting defeat, but a compromise. At present, only the sixth uncle has the courage to take over the shares of the Qin family. Secondly, they are more willing to get the shares of the Qin family than anyone else, so that they can completely control the Chong and group. Finally, we give up the shares of the Chong and group in exchange for a compromise. In this way, the sixth uncle will not pursue the matter of the old man, and the Qin family can spare more time and energy for the old man. This is also the Qin family's decision after careful consideration. After hearing Qin Sheng's explanation, Shui Qingyan felt that it was reasonable, but she also felt that these reasons were not enough to make the Qin family make such a choice. She continued to ask, if this is the case, why didn't the Qin family do this before? Or is there an expert guiding you from behind? Qin Sheng drove the car seriously and said, just take it that I have some guidance from an expert. Shui Qingyan muttered to herself, I still feel something is wrong. You must have something that you didn't tell me. Sister, don't ask about this. If you really want to know, you will know in the future. Qin Sheng could only change the topic in this way. Shui Qingyan could tell that Qin Sheng was unwilling to tell her the truth, or maybe there was something difficult for him to say, so she did not continue to ask. Maybe many people had asked, or maybe Qin Sheng was already tired of asking. After arriving at Huangpu Bay, Green City, where Shui Qingyan lived, Qin Sheng left directly and did not go up to sit for a while. Shui Qingyan even said that she would treat Qin Sheng to dinner at night. Qin Sheng also smiled and said that he had something to do at night. Shui Qingyan did not say much. They were already familiar enough. In the afternoon, Qin Sheng went to look for Bao Fan again. At noon, there were some things that Qin Sheng did not have time to say. This time, he came to Shanghai to have a good talk with Bao Fan about the relevant things. He hoped that Bao Fan would not think too much about it. Qin Sheng looked at Bao Fan and said calmly, Lao Bao, I have told you everything that should be said. Have you thought about it? Bao Fan smoked a cigar and said happily, Qin Sheng, the Qin family has given me such a good condition. What else can I choose? Besides, I am old and not so ambitious. It is worth it. It is better to leave the opportunity to the young people. I also want to live a comfortable life for 1,000 years and do something I like to do for the rest of my life. The most important thing for Qin Sheng to look for Bao Fan this time was that after the Qin family integrated all the company's assets, where would Bao Fan go? Whether it was because of his personal relationship with Qin Sheng, or because Bao Fan was originally a senior member of the Qin family and had made great contributions to the Qin family, or because Bao Fan still firmly supported the Qin family after the Qin family was in trouble. Unlike the two beasts with wild ambitions in Dalian and Shenzhen, based on these reasons, the Qin family had to treat Bao Fan well. Otherwise, Bao Fan would only be bitterly disappointed and others would be more disappointed. Therefore, the Qin family gave Bao Fan several choices. After the Qin family integrated all the assets, Bao Fan would continue to stay in the Qin family and become a director and a senior executive of the Qin family, responsible for the corresponding industries under the Qin family. The second choice was that after the Qin family integrated all the assets, Bao Fan would choose to quit and the Qin family would give him a one-off corresponding compensation. This compensation package would not let Bao Fan down. The third choice was that after the Qin family integrated all the assets, Bao Fan could choose to leave or become a director, but he would not be in charge of the business. This was the result of the discussion between Qin Sheng, Zhao Anji, and Uncle Gong's son. Bao Fan was extremely loyal to the Qin family, and the Qin family would also let Bao Fan down. After hearing Bao Fan's words, Qin Sheng smiled and said, Lao Bao, do you mean to choose the last choice? Yes, the last choice is also the most suitable for me. I'm not sure of money. Why does the Qin family give me so much money? I still have to think about how to spend it or how to invest it. It is better to directly exchange it for the Qin family's shares. In the future, I will only get dividends every year. As for the director, I don't want to be a director so that I won't have to worry about any trouble later. Bao Fan smiled and said. Qin Sheng nodded silently and said, Since you have made up your mind, I will respect your choice. After the Qin family integrated all the assets, we will sign a share agreement at that time. You have done a lot for the Qin family these years. Here, on behalf of the Qin family, my father, and myself, I thank you again. After Qin Sheng finished speaking, he stood up and bowed to Bao Fan. No matter what, Bao Fan was his elder. When he was in Shanghai, Bao Fan helped him a lot. You should thank Bao Fan. Bao Fan hurried to help Qin Sheng and said, What are you doing? I can't bear it. I have been in the Qin family for so many years, and the Qin family has never treated me badly. Without the Qin family, I would not be who I am today. If I want to thank someone, I should be the one to thank the Qin family. After Qin Sheng stood up, he said with a smile, All right, let's not be so polite. Bao Fan had already learned from Qin Sheng that the Qin family had given up the Chang'an department. Alas, I'm a little reluctant to let the Qin family give up the Chang'an department just like that. It has been so many years since Master Qin established it. Qin Sheng said calmly, If the old doesn't go, the new won't come. It won't take long for the new Chang'an school to rise. At that time, will you still be the founding member? Upon hearing this, Bao Fan laughed out loud. Maybe he had the best ending among the founding members who had followed Qin Chang'an to conquer the world. Song Shixin and Dalian and Heyong and Shenzhen probably had the same ending. How could the Qin family let them go? Even if the Qin family did not have the time to deal with them now, they would definitely find time to deal with them in the future. As long as the Zhu family did not fall, the Qin family would not decline. It was also because of this that Bao Fan firmly supported the Qin family. It was because Qin Sheng was the future heir of the Qin family. Qin Sheng and Qin Ran had always been close to the Zhu family. Moreover, the Zhu family was a big tree with deep roots in the Yangtze River Delta and Shanghai. Bao Fan would not dare to betray the Qin family. After talking about these things, Qin Sheng left Bao Fan's place. Bao Fan wanted to ask Qin Sheng to stay for dinner and drink, but Qin Sheng politely refused because he really had other things to do. The Shanghai Conservatory of Music was one of the best conservatories in China. After Qin Sheng disappeared from everyone's sight, he came to this place. Even Chang Baji and the others did not follow him, because for his current situation, it was best not to let others know his trace. Moreover, Qin Sheng was here for Qing Er. It was already dinner time. After Qing Er finished her class, she stayed in the office for a while and was ready to go home. Her life was still so regular. It seemed that no one could make her life have any waves, just like her state of mind was so calm. It seemed that only that man could change her life. It was just that she hadn't seen that man for a long time. Since he left Shanghai, she hadn't seen him again. Occasionally, she would take the initiative to send messages to that man, but most of the time, she did not want to disturb his life because her uncle said that he was very busy now and had a lot of things to deal with. Occasionally, he would contact her, but only occasionally. Every time he received a call or message from her, her mood would be incomparably bright. It was as if after a continuous rainy day, she suddenly woke up one morning and opened the window, and the room was instantly filled with sunlight. For her, she only cared about him and her uncle. For her, work was just to pass the time. However, whenever she was immersed in the world of music, she would also forget all her troubles and sorrows. Another day ended just like that. It was an ordinary day. There was nothing interesting, and there were no interesting people. It was still those familiar students, and at the same time, there were still people who secretly sent her flowers, but she did not accept them because her heart already belonged to someone, and it would not change in this life. She walked unhurriedly to the parking place. The road was full of French plane leaves. She stepped on the leaves with great interest, as if stepping on the leaves could keep her favorite autumn. However, the weather was getting colder and colder. Winter came unknowingly, and the cold wind made her feel a little cold. She subconsciously tightened her coat, wondering if it would snow in Shanghai this winter. Her uncle had gone on a trip to Europe, leaving her alone to eat dinner, and also one less person to talk to. However, she did not seem to be lonely, or perhaps it was because she was used to this kind of life. She just walked with her head down all the way to the parking place, or perhaps she had already walked past it. Under the dim, yellow street lights, her figure was a little lonely, and it also made people feel a little sorry for her. But it was also the most beautiful scenery on this road. Many students subconsciously stopped because this was the most beautiful teacher in their school. Suddenly, the road in front of her was blocked by someone. That person seemed to be standing in front of her, not intending to move out of the way. She was a little unhappy, thinking that it was probably another crazy suitor, these men. At this moment, she heard the man say in a very warm voice, "Classmate, can I get to know you?" At this moment, she suddenly smiled, and her smile was very bright, as if this winter was no longer cold. Even if it did not snow, it had nothing to do with her, because he was back. Chapter 1009. The atmosphere of Shanghai, a magical metropolis, was different from that of other cities. It was not as rich and historical as Xi'an, nor was it as serious and formal as Beijing, nor was it as modern and technologically advanced as Shenzhen. Shanghai always gave people the feeling of a bourgeoisie listening to symphonies and drinking afternoon tea, especially in the old Shanghai streets. So much so that the temperament of these schools in Shanghai also followed the city. Among them, the most distinctive were Shangyin and Fudan. Qin Sheng had experienced the bourgeoisie temperament of Fudan for 4 years. Qin Sheng had experienced the petty bourgeois temperament of Fudan University for 4 years. He knew the temperament of this school better than many ordinary people. It was like the eldest daughter of a middle-class family, somewhat conservative and trendy, while Shangyin was like the youngest daughter of a middle-class family, with taste and pursuits, but limited to a small circle. Qing Er's temperament was very much in line with Shangyin's. She was always limited to her own small circle, unwilling to meet new friends, and unwilling to have too much interaction with strangers, unless it was for work or music. Therefore, Qing Er was always so lonely, like an elf wandering in this world, recording the beauty of this world. Qing Er's reputation in Shangyin was not small. Several batches of students knew this female teacher who cared about herself. She could play all kinds of musical instruments at her fingertips and often worked with various masters. But she did not seem to care so much about fame, nor was she willing to be high profile. The school leaders recommended her to go to a foreign music hall for exchange or advanced studies, but she never agreed. Unlike many teachers who seized the opportunity to become famous, even if there were no opportunities, she would create opportunities. What everyone knew was that Teacher Qing had a lot of pursuers. Many of them were second-generation rich and official children, as well as male teachers in the school. Even many students in the school pursued Teacher Qing, but Teacher Qing never agreed to anyone. However, everyone knew that Teacher Qing Er's family was very rich. Otherwise, why would she drive a luxury car to and from work? It seemed that she even had a full-time driver. No wonder Teacher Qing was so arrogant that those pursuers did not dare to make trouble. There was a pursuer of Teacher Qing who wanted to pester her, but was finally dealt with by Teacher Qing Er's elders and never appeared again. It was said that Teacher Qing already had a boyfriend. It was said by the teachers and classmates in the school. Teacher Qing boyfriend came to pick her up during a concert, but no one had seen him before. Teacher Qing was alone most of the time. Other than during class time, Miss Qing rarely appeared in front of everyone. Whenever Miss Qing was in class, there would be many students who wanted to see her. The only place where they could see Miss Qing was on this road, because Miss Qing would walk from her office to the parking lot. Hence, there were many students and suitors waiting for Teacher Qing on this road. Sometimes, there would be a few reckless people who rushed over to present flowers and confess their love. However, Teacher Qing did not care about them. She smiled and tactfully rejected them before leaving. As a matter of fact, there was another bold suitor today. He didn't look like a student or a teacher, but more like an outsider. His looks weren't bad, but he was still a distance away from being handsome. However, the way he dressed was not bad. Unfortunately, this was destined to be a love that had ended before it even started. Maybe it was because of the music. The air was filled with the smell of music. Even the rustling of the leaves sounded like a nice concert. However, the best music at this time was Heartbeat. Hearing this extremely familiar voice, Ching-er, who had been lowering her head, revealed the most brilliant smile. She slowly raised her head and looked at the bold suitor. She deliberately teased him and said, "Sorry, I already have a boyfriend." Yes, it was him. He was back. It was an extremely familiar voice, an extremely familiar smell, and an extremely familiar look. However, he was haggard and also experienced the vicissitudes of life. It could be seen that he had experienced a lot during this period of time. He must be very busy and tired. It was a pity that she could not be by his side to take care of him. It seemed that he did not need her to take care of him. She just needed to not let him worry and then wait for him silently. Qin Sheng looked at this heart-wrenching face. Of course, he knew that she was teasing him. Qin Sheng smiled and replied, "Then I will beat you to death, throw your body in the wilderness, and finally snatch you over. What do you think?" "Then beat yourself to death," Qing-er replied faintly. However, after saying that, she could not help but laugh out loud. Seeing that teacher Qing-er was actually amused by this suitor, the surrounding students were very surprised. However, teacher Qing-er looked really beautiful when she laughed. If they could marry such a goddess as their wife, their life would really be worth it. It was a pity that they did not have the chance, because the next action of this man shocked everyone. They saw him slowly hugging teacher Qing-er, and even kissing her gently on the forehead. CK your grandpa. This guy actually dared to tease teacher Qing-er in public. Was he finally taking the risk because his confession failed, and he was embarrassed in anger? Damn it. Did he think that there was no one else in Shangyin? Everyone almost wanted to rise up and violently beat up this man who dared to tease their teacher Qing. However, why did teacher Qing-er not reject him? What the hell? Not only did teacher Qing-er not reject him, she even took the initiative to hug this suitor. She even placed her face on this suitor's chest, looking a little shy. "Who can tell me what on earth is going on? Why are you here?" Qing-er asked in a low voice. Her tone was full of sweetness, more like she was acting coquettishly. Qin Sheng touched Qing-er's hair and said, "I missed you, so I came back." Qing-er did not doubt what Qin Sheng said. Even if it was a lie, she would believe it. She replied softly, "I missed you too." Qin Sheng, a man who suddenly appeared in her world, a man who made her willing to give everything to him. However, it seemed that every time he appeared, it was so sudden. Qing had slowly gotten used to it, because every time he appeared, her world would be lit up as if a bunch of fireworks had suddenly bloomed in the night sky. Qin Sheng did not speak anymore and just hugged Qing like this. However, he seemed to feel the eyes from the surrounding people. These eyes seemed to want to kill him directly. Qin Sheng did not know whether to laugh or cry. He said, "I feel that if I continue to hug you like this, it will be very difficult for me to walk out of Shangyin school gate today." Of course, Qing knew what Qin Sheng meant. She smiled and said, "Then let's go. Don't worry, I haven't been back to school for a long time. Let me feel the campus atmosphere again. Let's just walk around. I can also declare to the students and teachers of Shangyin that your teacher Qing is already taken. Don't have any ideas in the future. If you really want to have any ideas, then deal with me first," Qin Sheng said with a smile. Qing raised her head and glared at Qin Sheng, but her face was full of smiles and happiness. The air was full of the smell of love. After coming back to his senses, Qin Sheng let go of Qing. Qing took Qin Sheng's arm and held his hand tightly. She leaned her head on Qin Sheng's shoulder and walked forward unhurriedly. This was her most fortunate moment. She had fantasized about such a scene before, but unfortunately, she had never had the chance. Today, she was finally satisfied. At this moment, no matter how stupid the surrounding students were, they had already understood that this man was the legendary teacher Qing's boyfriend. They could also see that teacher Qing liked this man very much. They had no chance anymore. It would not take long for this news to spread throughout the campus. However, they did not find anything special about this man. Why did teacher Qing'er choose him? Many people were beating their chests and stamping their feet. Why did this happen? Of course, there were also people who did not give up. As long as teacher Qing'er was unmarried, they still had a chance. Wait for me, teacher Qing'er. Qin Sheng accompanied Qing'er on a walk on campus, listening to her introduce the buildings of Shangyin and the story behind it. This feeling was very romantic and comfortable, more like how most people in love felt. It was as if Qin Sheng had returned to the time when he was studying at Fudan University, except that at that time, it was Su Qin who accompanied him. After walking for more than half an hour, Qin Sheng was also a little hungry. At this time, he remembered that they had not eaten. Qin Sheng smiled and asked, "I'm hungry, what do you want to eat?" "Dinner is ready at home." "Let's go home and eat," Qing'er said softly. She did not want to go out to eat. Moreover, she preferred to be alone with Qin Sheng. Qin Sheng thought for a moment and finally agreed. He nodded and said, "Then let's go home." Therefore, they went to the parking lot. Qin Sheng drove Qing'er's car and took her home. Of course, he knew that Jiang Xianbang was not in Shanghai. This old guy went to Europe to travel. He said that he went to travel, but it was estimated that he went to look for collectibles. Now, he was not as purposeful as before. Now, he was more just playing. When Qing'er brought Qin Sheng back to Jiang Xianbang's old foreign-style house, the housekeeper Uncle Wang was very happy to see him. He did not expect Qin Sheng to come back so suddenly. He quickly prepared dinner. When eating, there were only Qin Sheng and Qing'er at the table. They talked and laughed, as if eating had become a romantic thing. After dinner, Qing'er took the initiative to boil a pot of tea for Qin Sheng. Qin Sheng lay on the sofa and drank tea, listening to Qing'er playing the Chinese zither. This kind of life was really comfortable. It made Qin Sheng feel happy both physically and mentally. It seemed that when he was with Qing'er, it was the most relaxing time, without any pressure. At about 10 o'clock, Qing'er took the initiative to stand up and go upstairs to prepare the bathwater for Qin Sheng so that he could take a bath. Of course, Qin Sheng would stay here tonight. After all, Qing'er was already his woman. This was also the reason why he came here alone. If he left like this, it would only make Qing'er sad. When Qing'er finished preparing the bathwater, she called Qin Sheng upstairs to take a bath. Qin Sheng entered Qing'er's room. Qing'er had prepared things for him to wash up. After he changed into the bathrobe, he suddenly hugged Qing'er and teased her. "Do you want to join me?" Hearing this, Qing'er instantly blushed. She looked very charming, as if she wanted to refuse him. Qin Sheng laughed and said, "I'm teasing you." After that, Qin Sheng went into the bathroom. Lying in the bathtub, it was extremely comfortable, as if all his fatigue could be driven away. When Qin Sheng was lost in thought, the bathroom door suddenly opened. Qin Sheng looked up subconsciously, only to see Qing'er coming in with only a bath towel. Then, under Qin Sheng's stunned gaze, she walked toward him step by step. In the end, she threw away the bath towel and walked into the bathtub, revealing her perfect figure. How could Qin Sheng still control himself at this time? Chapter 10:10. Early in the morning, when Qing'er got up, Qin Sheng was already sitting on the balcony drinking tea. This was his daily routine. Even though he didn't sleep until 2 o'clock last night, he was still young. Qing'er didn't disturb Qin Sheng. She just leaned against the headboard lazily and looked at Qin Sheng's back. Her messy hair and blurred eyes made Qing'er look more feminine. Lust was like a scourge that couldn't be contained once it was unleashed. It was the same for both men and women. Thinking of the craziness last night, she blushed in embarrassment. From the moment she walked into the bathroom, she had let go of her original modesty. Because Qin Sheng was her man, and she was Qin Sheng's woman. Qing'er knew what to do in front of her man. That might be her greatest courage. After watching for a while, Qing'er got up in her pajamas. She walked to the balcony and slowly hugged Qin Sheng from behind. Feeling the warmth on his back, Qin Sheng smiled and said, "Why didn't you sleep more? Why did you wake up so early?" "I was afraid that I wouldn't see you when I woke up," Qing'er said with some affection. Although she was used to Qin Sheng's hasty coming and going, she was more willing to let Qin Sheng accompany her. Qin Sheng turned around and hugged Qing Er's soft waist. Don't worry, I'll be accompanying you in Shanghai these few days. Hearing this, Qing Er showed a bright smile. Finally, she could have Qin Sheng for a few days. Although it was only a few days, she was already satisfied. Do you have classes today? Qin Sheng asked casually. Qing Er replied in a low voice, I have 2 classes in the afternoon. Well, I won't be accompanying you for dinner tonight. You could go home and wait for me. I'll try to come back early, Qin Sheng said in a low voice. However, at this time, Qing Er blushed inexplicably and looked at him coquettishly, because Qin Sheng's hand had been placed in a place where it shouldn't be. Before Qing Er came back to her senses, Qin Sheng had already hugged her waist and walked to the bed. Women were poison to men, let alone beautiful women. Men always liked to conquer such women. Not long after, the room was filled with endless spring scenery. After breakfast, Qin Sheng left Jiang Xianbang's old foreign-style house. Qing Er watched Qin Sheng leave. She was still a little reluctant to see him go. Although she had been with Qin Sheng for a long time, after all, they were not together for long. Qing Er was still like a little woman in her first love. Even if she was tired of being with Qin Sheng, she was still worried about gains and losses. However, she had long known what kind of role she would play in Qin Sheng's life. She would not desire too much, as long as she could have Qin Sheng for a short period of time. When Qin Sheng arrived at the old place, Shangshan Ruoshui, Xue Qingyin, and Xia Ding were already waiting there. Now that the renovation of Shangshan Ruoshui had been completed, the new Shangshan Ruoshui was waiting for business. Xue Qingyin had been worried about this a lot. Who asked Qin Sheng to be a hands-off boss? The 3 actual people in charge of Shangshan Ruoshui were also waiting for Qin Sheng. Mizzen was still so charming. She would still be the general manager of Shangshan Ruoshui in the future. A woman like her who knew how to greet and see off guests would know how to deal with those distinguished guests. Yu Fengji, who had an ambiguous relationship with Qin Sheng, was more suitable to be in charge of practical things. She and Mizzen had different temperaments. She used to like Qin Sheng and once wanted to be Qin Sheng's woman. But now she could not gradually let go of this fantasy, because Qin Sheng was getting farther and farther away from her. As for Liu Yuan, he was not too ambitious and was destined not to follow Qin Sheng. He could only stay in Shangshan Ruoshui and live his comfortable life. Not bad. The style is more tasteful than before. It seems that the money was not spent in vain. After visiting the brand new Shangshan Ruoshui, Qin Sheng praised. Mizzen said happily, Oh, at least we didn't let our big boss down. Otherwise, I would have to pack up and leave. In Shangshan Ruoshui, Qin Sheng and Xue Qingyan were the biggest shareholders. Qin Sheng invited Xia Ding to participate, and the other shareholders were invited by Xue Qingyan. After all, Shangshan Ruoshui was rooted in Shanghai. Xue Qingyan also invited some famous people in Shanghai. In the future, Shangshan Ruoshui would be lively again, but the standard would be higher than that in the era of Jiang Xianbang. After all, Qin Sheng, the young master of the Qin family, and Xue Qingyan, the famous lady of Shanghai, would be in front of the stage, and there was also the relationship of the Zhu family. Mizzen, how can I bear to leave such a beautiful woman like you? If you leave, where can I find another one? Qin Sheng said with a smile. Mizzen smiled and said, This is all thanks to Miss Xue. Without Miss Xue's participation, we probably don't know how to start. Qin Sheng said, half-jokingly, Sister, you have worked hard. Alas, I have a life of hard work. Xue Qingyan sighed. Qin Sheng quickly said, Well, I will treat everyone to dinner tonight. Treat it as a reward. At this time, Xia Ding said, I can eat and drink for free again. You little guy. Qin Sheng laughed and scolded. Apart from greeting Yu Fengji at the beginning, Qin Sheng had not spoken to her since then. Yu Fengji did not take the initiative to look for Qin Sheng either. Since she had let go of the past, she would not have any illusions anymore. Why should she be obsessed with the past? In the past few months, she had thought everything through and was also persuaded by Xue Qingyan and Mizzen. However, she would remember this man in her life. It was just that they were not destined to be together. However, The way Yu Fengji looked at Qin Sheng was still a little resentful. Qin Sheng really owed a lot of emotional debt. At dinner, when Yu Fengji went to the bathroom, Xue Qingyan secretly said to Qin Sheng, "You really have a lot of emotional debt. What should I say to you? Sister, I have enough headaches. Maybe time will change everything." Of course, Qin Sheng knew what Xue Qingyan was talking about and sighed helplessly. Xue Qingyan asked casually, "When will you go back to Beijing?" "The morning after tomorrow. I will sign the second contract when I go back. Everything will be settled before the new year," Qin Sheng said thoughtfully. Xue Qingyan raised her glass and said, "Then I wish you all the best." After dinner, Qin Sheng and Xia Ding said goodbye to everyone. Yu Fengji finally could not bear it and insisted until everyone left. She walked to Qin Sheng and said, "You don't have to feel guilty in front of me. It's my own business that I like you. I also know that I don't deserve you. From now on, we will be the most ordinary friends. I can't give you anything. What I will bring you is only hurt and danger. You deserve your own happiness." Qin Sheng also replied very straightforwardly. Yu Fengji was a little reluctant and said, "Can I hug you again?" Qin Sheng did not refuse. How could he refuse? After Yu Fengji finished speaking, Qin Sheng took the initiative to hug her. Yu Fengji put her head on Qin Sheng's shoulder and sighed deeply. Everything should be over. When Xia Ding sent Qin Sheng back to Huaihai, he scolded angrily, Qin Sheng, you are so popular with women. It's a pity that you are not like me. You see, when I was young, I played when I wanted to. Now, I will stop when I need to. What about you? You have always been trapped by love. F***ck off. You are afraid that your father will break your legs? Scumbag. Qin Sheng scolded angrily. Xia Ding continued to joke. Yu Fengji is very good. Look at her curves. How nice it would be to be your little lover. What? You want to hit on her? Qin Sheng said with bad intentions. Xia Ding scolded. Nonsense. Rabbits don't eat the grass near their nest. That's good, Qin Sheng said with relief. At this time, Xia Ding changed the topic and said, "Are you engaged? It's such a big thing. You didn't tell your brothers. Are you afraid that they will ask you to buy them a drink? Don't you already know? I didn't go to Lao Si's wedding. Is he angry?" Qin Sheng thought of Yu Kefi's wedding. He was going to attend, but in the end, he did not go because of family affairs. He was the only one in the dormitory who did not go. Xia Ding patted Qin Sheng on the shoulder and said, "Isn't it a special situation? Don't think too much. Lao Si won't think too much. Brothers are still brothers. Next time you see him, you can toast him more. That's the only way." Qin Sheng sighed. Xia Ding followed and said, "But it's my wedding. You have to come." Qin Sheng laughed and scolded, "Damn you." When Qin Sheng returned to Jiang Xianbang's house, it was very late. After the housekeeper, Uncle Wang, opened the door for Qin Sheng asked, "Is Qing asleep?" "No, she is still waiting for you in the living room." Uncle Wang replied with a smile. He knew the story of Qin Sheng and Qing better than anyone else. He was relieved to see the two children coming together. After all, with Qin Sheng taking care of Qing would not be bullied in the future. Otherwise, when he and Jiang Xianbang were gone, who would take care of Qing? After Qin Sheng walked into the living room, Qing, who was in a daze on the sofa, quickly got up and walked over. She hugged Qin Sheng and said, "You are back. Still waiting for me?" "It's not that I won't come back." Qin Sheng laughed. Qing said coquettishly, "I can't sleep without you." Hearing this, Qin Sheng directly picked up Qing and went upstairs. What could be more direct than practical action? 2 days passed quickly. Apart from eating with Bao Fan and the others, Qin Sheng spent the rest of the time with Qing. Because it happened to be the weekend, Qing did not have classes, so the two of them stayed at home. Qin Sheng even cooked for Qing, which made her very happy. The time spent together passed quickly, and the time of departure came quickly. On the morning of Qin Sheng's return to Beijing, Qing deliberately fell asleep and did not wake up until Qin Sheng arrived, as if she could have Qin Sheng for a while. Qin Sheng and Hao Lei met at the airport. These days, Hao Lei had been accompanying Han Bing. This guy followed Qin Sheng to Shanghai and got a wife like Han Bing for free. Even if he did not do anything for the rest of his life, it would be worth it. After all, Han Bing was a real rich woman. Hale did not need to work hard. Of course, Hale was not such a person. After returning to Beijing, the Qin family and sixth uncle quickly signed the relevant contract for the second time. When the second contract was signed, the Qin family began to withdraw from the Chong and department as promised. The Qin family's trusted subordinates in the Chong and department began to resign and leave one after another. The era of the Qin family in the Chong and department was over. Time passed quickly. Unknowingly, it was almost a new year. Maybe it was because it was early today. As the new year approached, it was time for the Qin family and sixth uncle to sign the contract for the third time. This was also the last time. At the same time, it also meant that the honeymoon period of the Qin family and sixth uncle was coming to an end. Chapter 10-11. During this time, except for Chong Sinyi and Hao Mingyi, the other senior executives of the Chong and group had made their choice. Some of them continued to stay in the Chong and group. After all, they were all the top bosses in the industry. Even if they were liquidated, they didn't have to worry about not being able to find another group. Some of them left the Chong and group and started their own businesses, such as angel investors or private equity funds. These people had a lot of connections in the financial circle and capital circle. So many people would do them a favor. Finally, there were those who chose to join the Qin family. At present, they had officially joined the Qin family's newly registered company. Although the legal person of the company was Zhao Anji, the shareholders were only Qin Sheng, Qin Ran, and Qin Jing. Moreover, the largest shareholder was Qin Sheng, who had 70% of the shares, followed by Qin Ran, who had 20%, and Qin Jing, who had 10%. This was the decision made by Zhao Anji after discussing with Qin Chang'an, which meant that Qin Chang'an had officially handed over the Qin family to Qin Sheng. The reason why Qin Sheng owned so many shares was that he not only represented himself, but also represented the interests of Qin Chang'an and the Qin family. That was why he owned so many shares. From now on, Qin Sheng would become the official helmsman of the Qin family. The office of the new company was temporarily located at the old address of the Qin family, an ordinary office building very close to the Chong and financial building. This was also convenient for Qin Chang'an to have meetings there. However, Qin Sheng had asked Hao Mingyi and Chong Sinyi to look for a suitable office building near the World Trade Center, which would become the headquarters of the new company. It was obvious that the Qin family was still ambitious because this was the most prosperous place in Beijing. At this stage, Chong Sinyi and Hao Mingyi had two most important things to do. First, they would inject some funds into the new company, which would be the main body of the Qin family in the future. At the same time, they would sort out the high-quality company assets that they had acquired this time. They would integrate the assets that were suitable for the future development of the Qin family into the new company and sell the assets that were not suitable for the future development of the Qin family to the capital circle according to their grades. The second thing was to clean up all the assets held by the Qin family at present. Those that were in line with the future development of the Qin family would be kept and integrated into the new company of the Qin family in the future. The rest of the assets would be sold to the capital circle according to their grades. At the same time, he would check the accounts of all the companies under the Qin family in the past 5 years, especially the accounts in Shenzhen and Dalian. This was also a preparation for the cleaning up of the family. As for what happened in Shanghai, Qin Sheng would not ask about it no matter what happened in the end. This was also the treatment that Bao Fan deserved. The Qin clan would completely slim down, from a bloated fatty to a healthy young man. A new Qin clan was about to be born. The first thing was actually not difficult. After all, due diligence had been done on these companies before. All the accounting and legal teams needed to do was to follow the normal procedures. The second thing was more difficult, especially to check the accounts of the companies under the Qin family in the past 5 years. It was estimated that they would encounter strong resistance from He Yong and Song Shixin. They would not allow the Qin family to check their accounts so easily. Otherwise, they would be killed by the Qin family. However, no matter how strong the resistance was, the Qin family had to be a strong warrior and move forward bravely. No matter what means they had to use, they had to carry out this work to the end. At present, Zhao Anji and Gong Sun would be fully in charge. They wanted to see how Song Shixin and He Yong would fight against the Qin family without the support of sixth uncle. The date for the third and final signing of the relevant contracts had finally arrived. After all the members of the Qin family had signed their names on the contracts, sixth uncle and the others let out a long sigh of relief. They had finally gotten what they wanted. They had been planning for a few years for this. Now, they had finally won the battle with the Qin family. The Qin family was finally out of the game. Although they did not win against the proud and conceited Qin Chang'an had been sent to prison. No one cared about this anymore. What they had to do next was to put a nail on Qin Chang'an's coffin, so that Qin Chang'an would never be able to make a comeback. Sixth uncle smiled happily and said, "After working hard for a few months, it's finally over. If the Qin family had done this earlier, there wouldn't have been so many troubles later." They were indeed winners. Although there were many twists and turns along the way, the result was still satisfactory. Qin Chang'an was sent to prison, the Qin family was out of the game, and they came out unscathed. Qin Sheng said calmly, "Some things can only be known after experiencing it. No one is a prophet. No one can see the road ahead clearly, right?" Sixth uncle patted Qin Sheng's shoulder and said with a smile, Qin Sheng, you have your father's shadow in you. I believe that you will go further in the future, and your achievements will not be lower than your father's. Work hard. We, the elders, are already old. Now it's the world of young people like you." Qin Sheng replied politely, "Thank you for your compliment, Sixth Master. I hope that in the future, Sixth Master will not be stingy in teaching me." At this time, Ziyuan stood up and said, "Sister Zhao, now that the contracts have been signed, the acquisition can be regarded as successful. We have transferred the corresponding funds into the accounts of several companies given by the Qin family. At the same time, the corresponding companies have also completed the closing. Next, we will hold a shareholders' meeting to elect the board of directors and announce it to the public. When do you think it's a good time?" Zhao Anji said thoughtfully, "Now that you are the masters of the Chang'an group, you have the final say." Ziyuan said in a dignified manner, "Then let's do it next Monday. We will inform all the shareholders to attend the meeting. At that time, I hope that you can also attend the meeting. After all, in these years, the Qin family has done a lot for the Chang'an group. At that time, we have to express our gratitude to the Qin family on behalf of all the shareholders. I hope that we will have the opportunity to cooperate in the future and that the Qin family can prosper day by day." Zhao Anji replied calmly, "I hope so." At this point, everything was over. The members of the Qin family said goodbye to sixth uncle and the others and left. Zhao Anji, Qin Sheng, Qin Ran, Qin Jing, and all the related members of the Qin family had moved out of the Chang'an group. After attending the shareholders' meeting next Monday, the members of the Qin family would probably never come to the Chang'an group again. No matter whether the Chang'an group was alive or dead, it had nothing to do with the Qin family anymore. The Qin family successfully withdrew from the Chang'an group, which could be regarded as the completion of the plan of Zhu Weiguo and Qin Changxing. This was the most crucial step for the Qin family. The Qin family had gotten what they wanted, and so had sixth uncle. Both of them seemed to have taken what they needed, but there were unknown secrets behind it. Zhu Weiguo and Qin Changxing, the two bosses behind the Qin family, had sensed the coming danger, so they asked the Qin family to withdraw from the Chang'an group in a limited time. How could sixth uncle not know the danger of the Chang'an group? However, he was more powerful in Beijing and had more connections than the Qin family. Moreover, he had Elder Long behind him. They believed that they could solve the crisis of the Chang'an group, not to mention that they had made the Qin family and Qin Chang'an become scapegoats. How could they not solve the crisis perfectly? In the end, the Qin family not only lost the control of the Chang'an group, but also lost Qin Chang'an, the pillar of the group, and paid a heavy price. However, they did not pay anything, but got a brand new Chang'an group that belonged to them. With the Chang'an group as the capital, how much benefit could they get? However, could they really get what they wanted? At noon, sixth uncle invited Zhe Yuan and the eldest brother of the Su family to lunch. In order to celebrate the successful acquisition, sixth uncle opened a bottle of Mao Tai, which had been treasured for 50 years by his father. Now there were only a few bottles left. Our honeymoon period with the Qin family is over, Zhe Yuan said with a smile while drinking the wine. The eldest brother of the Su family snorted and said, "It should have been over long ago. We are not in the same boat." The Qin family is really naive. Do they really think that we will let them go? If we let them go, who will take the blame for the Chang'an group? Do you want us to take the blame? If no one takes the blame, when will the storm of the Chang'an group end? Zhe Yuan looked at sixth uncle and said, "Sixth uncle, what should we do next?" "Don't worry. Let's start after all of our people enter the Chang'an group. Besides, the Spring Festival is coming soon. Don't make trouble for others, or we will cause public anger," sixth uncle said thoughtfully. The Spring Festival would come in less than half a month. The eldest brother of the Su family echoed, "Then let's celebrate the Spring Festival quietly and let the Qin family finish it. After the Spring Festival, the Qin family will have a hard time." Zhe Yuan said meaningfully, "We'd better make plans early. We should check the accounts first. At that time, we will also hand the evidence to the higher-ups. With the evidence, Qin Chang'an will have no chance to turn over. I'm afraid that he will be in jail until the end. This time, the Qin family will have to spit out all the things that we have eaten from our mouths." Sixth uncle did not say anything. The eldest brother of the Su family asked, "Sixth brother, what does Elder Long mean? Didn't he urge us?" Sixth uncle said in a low voice, "Not yet. We don't need to hurry. Let's talk about it after the Spring Festival." Zhe Yuan asked with interest, "Sixth uncle, do you think that if we promise the Qin family to let Qin Chang'an go and let them go, will they do something desperate? What if they fight to the death? I always feel that Qin Chang'an has a trump card, but he has not played it. I think it's normal that Qin Sheng and the others believe us. But will Qin Chang'an, that old fox, believe us so easily? Will he give us the initiative?" Sixth uncle squinted and replied, "What trump card can they have? They have played all the cards. Otherwise, they would not have taken such a step. Moreover, there is still Elder Long. We are strong allies. How can the Qin family fight against us?" "Well, Zhe Yuan, don't worry about it. If they really have a trump card, we will not be afraid. It's nothing more than a solution to the problem," the eldest brother of the Su family said disapprovingly. Zhe Yuan was still somewhat worried. He continued to say, "This time, we have borrowed so much money from Elder Long. What should we do if Elder Long destroys the bridge after we have outlived our usefulness?" Sixth uncle said confidently, "The Chang'an system is already in our hands. Nothing will be a problem." Zhe Yuan thought about it and agreed with him. The capital that the Chang'an system could use was already an astronomical figure. At that time, they would be able to pay back Elder Long. Chapter 10:12. After the Laba Festival, it would be the Spring Festival. Kids, don't be greedy. After the Laba Festival, it would be the Spring Festival. Unknowingly, the year had come to an end. Now it was late December, and the Spring Festival was coming. This would be Qin Sheng's second Spring Festival in Beijing, and also his first Spring Festival after the old man's accident. The memory of last year's Spring Festival was still fresh in his mind. As soon as Qin Sheng returned to Beijing, Zhu Weiguo brought his whole family to the Qin family on New Year's Eve. This was the first time that the Zhu family had been so active since the Qin family and the Qin family had been apart for many years. Zhu Weiguo did that for Qin Sheng and Qin Ran. It was not easy for Qin Sheng to return to the Qin family, but there were only 3 of them in the Qin family. Therefore, he directly brought his whole family to celebrate the Spring Festival without the old lady's consent. Not to mention Qin Ran. Even Qin Chang'an was surprised. This was probably the first time that the Qin family had such a lively New Year's Eve in so many years. It was also the first time that Qin Sheng had celebrated the Spring Festival with so many people after graduation, and they were all his family members. At that time, Qin Sheng had not adapted to this new environment yet. Similarly, During this spring festival, Qin Sheng got to know Song Ruyu again. Although they had known each other since childhood, those memories had long disappeared. This could be considered as their reunion. Perhaps Qin Sheng did not take it seriously. It was not until Song Ruyu said those words at the engagement party that Qin Sheng understood what it meant to Song Ruyu when he saw her again. After that, Qin Sheng went to Shanghai and met his grandmother, who had been waiting for him for more than 20 years. Qin Sheng did not expect this old lady to love him so much, which made him feel the warmth of a family member. At the same time, Qin Sheng got to know other family members, such as his small aunt and her husband, who he had been very familiar with when he was young. From this moment on, Qin Sheng really started a new chapter in his life. What happened in the following year really dazzled Qin Sheng, and it was too much for his eyes to take in. Until today, it had not ended. Just like that, the Qin family was eliminated from the Chang and system, and they completely put down this heavy burden. Perhaps because everything went so smoothly, the Qin family, who had been carrying a certain amount of pressure, let out a long sigh of relief. Finally, the acquisition was completed before the Spring Festival. The Qin family could completely rest for a period of time and enjoy the Spring Festival. The atmosphere of the new year was getting stronger and stronger. Millions of people in Beijing were about to leave the city. Even the cars on the road were getting fewer and fewer. The only lively places were the railway station and the airport. It was really noisy there. Of course, there were also supermarkets and shopping malls. Everyone was buying things for the new year. On the weekend, the Qin family invited Chang Sini, Hao Mingyi, and other new executives to a family dinner. They would be the core figures of the Qin family's new company. From then on, they would have nothing to do with the Chang'an Group. The history of the Chang'an Group would be gone with the wind, but the memory would be with them for the rest of their lives. Tomorrow, we will attend the shareholders' meeting of the Chang'an Group. At that time, we will announce the news to the public. From then on, the Chang'an Group will have nothing to do with the Qin family. I'm still a little reluctant, especially for you. Zhao Anji shook her head and sighed bitterly while drinking wine. Most of these people had been in the Chang'an Group for at least 5 years. Chang Sini said in a low voice, "Although I'm a little reluctant, everything has a beginning and an end. This is just a journey on the road of our life. We will have more challenges in the future. As long as the Qin family is still here, as long as we are still here, sooner or later we will build a new Chang'an Group. As long as I hear your words, I will be relieved." Zhao Anji said affirmatively. She knew that these people stayed not for her sake, but for Qin Chang'an's sake. After all, they were all senior members of the Qin family. After saying these words, Zhao Anji continued, "In fact, I invited you here today not only to talk about what will happen after the Spring Festival, but also how to arrange you. Now it's time to tell you about it, so that you can know what to do. The next step is the talent reserve, which depends on your resources. The Qin family can only support you behind the scenes." Sister Zhao, just say it. "No matter what the Qin family asks us to do, we will do our best," Hao Mingyi said firmly. Zhao Anji hesitated for a moment and said, "Then I will be straightforward. After the Spring Festival, I will be the chairman of the new company. Sini, you will continue to be the president and be fully responsible for the development and strategy of the new company. Mingyi, you will still be the vice president and general manager. Lao Qian will be the vice president and the financial director of the new company. You are also a senior member of the Chang'an Group. Lao Duan will be responsible for the public relations and government relations, and Wuli will be responsible for the administration and personnel. Although you have not been in the Chang'an Group for a long time, you are all outstanding. As for the rest of the organizational structure, you could discuss it and choose suitable candidates. I also know that there are many people following you this time. Since you all believe in the Qin family will not let you down." After hearing this, the others looked at each other and were not surprised. However, these were only the top management. After the integration of the new and old assets of the Qin family, the overall structure of a new company would be sorted out. At that time, the new company would not be just a new company. At this time, Hao Mingyi suddenly said, "What about Qin Sheng and Qin Ran? Won't they join the new company? At this time, the others also looked at Qin Sheng and Qin Ran. Qin Sheng took the lead and said, Uncle Hao, I still lack experience in company management, so we have discussed it. After the integration of the new company next year, I will be in charge of the development of a subsidiary. When the time is right, I will enter the management. Chong Sini looked at Qin Ran and said, I can understand why Qin Sheng doesn't enter the management. Chong Sini looked at Qin Ran and said, Aunt Chong, I know what you want to say, but I feel that it is too tiring. I want to do something else. Next year, the Qin family will set up a charity fund, which will continue to invest in education, medical care, poverty alleviation, and so on. At this time, Qin Ran smiled and said, Aunt Chong, I know what you want to say, but I think it's too tiring. I want to do something else. Next year, the Qin family will set up a charity fund, which will continue to invest in education, medical care, poverty alleviation, and so on. I will be in charge of this, and you will take care of the rest. This was the decision made by the Qin family recently. From now on, Qin Ran would not be in charge of the specific affairs of the Qin family's new company. She would be in charge of the Qin family's charity fund. She had to do something real, whether it was for the Qin family itself or for the reputation of the Qin family, as well as to win the favor of the senior management. The Qin family would invest more than 1 billion yuan every year. Except for the Qin family, who else could the Qin family trust in this aspect? Listen. After listening to Qin Ran's explanation, everyone finally understood that the Chong and Institute had not invested much in charity in recent years. They had only invested more in charity in recent years. Unfortunately, it was too late for them to do that. Charity was indeed very important. At this time, Chong Sini said, Of course, both Qin Sheng and Qin Ran will be on the board of directors. You can rest assured about this. With this sentence, everyone finally understood. Although the Qin family had completely delegated power to them, they would still control the overall situation. They wouldn't just ignore everything. After all, the Qin family was paying with real gold and silver. At this time, Zhao Anji stood up and raised her glass as she said, I don't want to say anything else. I hope that everything will go well in the new year, and that a new Chong and family will be born. The others also stood up one after another. They could imagine that the Qin family would make a comeback sooner or later, because at least in terms of capital, the Qin family was now rich and overbearing. On Monday, at the shareholders' meeting of the Chong and family, all the shareholders and their proxies were present. Of course, most of them were proxies. After all, some people's identities were not suitable. Moreover, the shareholders and legal persons of the holding companies were these proxies, so they naturally showed up. When Zhao Anji announced that the Qin family had transferred all their shares to the alliance formed by the sixth uncle and the other shareholders were in an uproar. No one had expected this result. Did the Qin family admit defeat and get kicked out? Did the sixth uncle and the others become the final winners? However, the Qin family had regained control of the Chong and family. Why did they give up the control of the Chong and family? What was the inside story? Everyone was very confused. However, everyone knew that it wouldn't take long for this news to shock the whole capital circle. At that time, everyone would know that the Qin family had nothing to do with the Chong and family, and the name Qin Chang'an would have nothing to do with the Chong and family he had created. What a joke! After the announcement, the new board members were elected. All the directors on the side of the Qin family were out. The sixth uncle and the Su family, the sixth uncle and the Ziyuan family, became the absolute controller of the Chong and family. The Li family and the Yang family were the most troubled ones. They were very annoyed by what the Qin family had done, but they could do nothing about it. After all, the Qin family didn't need to inform them of everything. However, they had offended the sixth uncle and the others. It seemed that they would be in trouble in the future. Therefore, the Yang family and the Li family had already begun to consider selling their shares. Since the Qin family could sell their shares, they could also sell their shares. Even if not now, they could do it in the future. However, they had already made up their minds that they would no longer interfere in the affairs of the Chong and family. After the election of the board of directors, the members of the Qin family had already left the headquarters building of the Chong and family. Standing at the main entrance of the headquarters building, They looked up at the financial twin towers, which were hundreds of meters high. Because countless tycoons in China wanted to have their own place on Chong and Street, because only then could they really stand at the top of the pyramid. The Qin family had to admit that they had indeed lost. Whether it was because of a strategic retreat or other reasons, they had left. However, sooner or later, the Qin family would come back. There would be a place for the Qin family on Chong and Street. Chapter 10:13. As expected, everyone was shocked when they heard the news. Just as everyone thought, when everyone heard the news, they couldn't help but be shocked. Whether it was the big circle of Sijio City or the capital circle, everyone was discussing this topic. It became a hot topic for all the big shots. No one could figure out what the Qin family was doing. That was because the Qin family had regained control of the Chong and system before. It was because the Qin family and the sixth uncle had fought for a long time that the winner was decided. At the same time, the marriage between the Qin family and the Song family showed up, which showed that the Qin family had a turning point. In particular, the elders of the four families had all attended the engagement banquet, which indirectly stood guard for the Qin family. Therefore, everyone thought that the storm of the Qin family might be over. It was estimated that Qin Chang'an would be released from prison soon. However, at this time, the Qin family sold the shares of the Chong and system to the sixth uncle. Now, there were three guesses. One was that the Qin family surrendered, the other was that the two sides reconciled, and the last one was that there was something else going on. After leaving the Chong and system, the Qin family completely walked out of this whirlpool. In the future, the trivial matters of the Chong and system had nothing to do with the Qin family. No matter how noisy the outside world was, the Qin family could finally be free from all disturbances. Zhao Anji took Qin Ran and Qin Jing to Sanya for a vacation, but it would only take 3 or 4 days. After all, the Spring Festival was coming. Originally, Qin Sheng thought that Aunt Qin was going to take her sister to meet eldest uncle. However, after thinking about it, Aunt Qin would not go to meet eldest uncle at this time. This meant that Aunt Qin had taken the initiative to reveal the trump card behind the Qin family. After all, it was not the time to use eldest uncle yet. Qin Sheng stayed in Beijing alone. In fact, there was nothing much to do. Except for some social activities, he stayed at home for the rest of the time, reading, swimming, and sometimes cooking. Uncle Gong's son, Hao Lei, Brother Wu, and Ba He often praised Qin Sheng's cooking. In 2 days, Brother Wu, Ba He, and Hao Lei would go home. At the end of the year, it was time for them to go home for the Spring Festival. After all, they had experienced so much this year. They should have a good rest. Qin Sheng would definitely spend the Spring Festival in Beijing this year. His grandmother was in Beijing now, so he didn't have to go to Shanghai. He had just met Uncle Lin and Aunt Wang some time ago, so he didn't have to go to Xi'an to pay them a New Year's call. However, he was engaged this year after all. At that time, he still had to pay a New Year's call to Song Ruyu's relatives. After he got married, this would become the norm. On the second day after Qin Sheng's aunt and sister went to Sanya, it snowed in Beijing. Heavy snowflakes danced in the wind, turning Beijing into Beijing in an instant. It was said that many people went to the Forbidden City to join in the fun. Qin Sheng did not have such a good interest. He just sat on the balcony and stared blankly at the snowy scenery of the West Mountain. It was like a fairy tale world wrapped in silver. It seemed that he had not gone skiing for a long time. If he had time recently, he would find a ski resort near Beijing to play. For various sports, Qin Sheng seemed to have a natural ability. For example, it did not take him long to evolve from skiing to snowboarding. Snowboarding was the real competition of skills. Perhaps it was because he had an innate talent for controlling his body. Qin Sheng was almost self-taught in these aspects. It was just that he was still not as good as those masters. It was already the 25th of the 12th lunar month. In a few days, it would be the new year. This year really went by quickly. In the afternoon, Qin Sheng went to the hospital to visit his grandmother. Perhaps it was because it was going to be a holiday soon. Everyone was free. His aunt and his 2 cousin-in-laws were in the hospital taking care of his grandmother. The children did not come. probably because they were afraid that they would be too noisy and disturb his grandmother's rest. In fact, Qin quite liked children, especially little girls. Every time he saw them, he would play for a while. After Qin greeted his grandmother, aunt, and his two cousin-in-laws, he heard his grandmother ask, "Have you been to your Grandpa Song's place?" "Yes, Grandpa Song is going home for the new year tomorrow." "How about you, Grandma?" Every time he came to the hospital, he would go to Old Master Song's place first. No matter what, Old Master Song was his grandfather now, so he had to visit him every time. Secondly, he could not chat with Old Master Song for too long, unlike with his grandmother, who could stay for a long time. The old lady heard that Qin had gone to the hospital. He nodded silently and then said, "Of course I'm going home for the new year. Staying in this hospital is no fun at all. It's better to go home. This hospital is too quiet. I'm not so sick that I can't leave the hospital." At this time, Wu Yajun said, "Your grandmother will be discharged from the hospital the day after tomorrow. Tomorrow, your two cousin-in-laws and I will bring some people to clean the house and buy some New Year's goods. The new year will be lively." Qin asked casually, "Aunt, will Uncle be at home on New Year's Eve this year?" "Your uncle will go to the army on New Year's Eve this year, so he probably won't be able to celebrate the new year with us. But your two cousins will come back. At that time, we will accompany your grandmother. You and Ran can come here on New Year's Eve, and I will cook delicious food for you. Remember to bring Ryu here. Our family has not been so lively for many years." Wu Yajun was very happy. In the past years, the old lady had been in Shanghai, so she could only go to Shanghai after New Year's Eve to see her. Zhu Weigua, her husband, could occasionally spend the new year with her and the children, but most of the time he was the busiest. After hearing Wu Yajun's arrangement, the old lady was a little dissatisfied. She said, "What are you talking about? Qin will definitely go to the Song family on New Year's Eve. We need to be polite and don't let the Song family have a problem with it." Wu Yajun hurriedly said, "Mom, you're right. I didn't think it through." Qin could only listen to his grandmother's arrangement. This year, he had to prepare a lot of gifts for the relatives of the Song family. Fortunately, Annie Qin had always been a hands-off shopkeeper. It seemed that it was good to have several women in the family. Qin did not need to worry about many things. In the evening, Qin went to pick up Song Ryu from work and then took her to eat hot pot. The snow outside was getting heavier and heavier. Qin drove very carefully, not because he was bad at driving, but because he was afraid of encountering road killers. After getting in the car, Qin took the initiative to warm his hands with Song Ryu. Now that they were very close, these ambiguous actions were almost normal. Song Ryu did not feel disgusted. On the contrary, she was very satisfied. While eating, Qin asked casually, "When is your holiday?" Song Ryu said while putting food in Qin's bowl, "On the 28th of the 12th lunar month. It was supposed to be on the 29th, but I haven't had much rest recently, so the leader asked me to take the holiday in advance." Qin continued to ask, "Will you go directly to your parents' place?" Song Ryu nodded and said, "It's the Spring Festival. Of course, I have to go back, or I would definitely call them. But I will spend New Year's Eve at Grandpa's place." "Well, that's okay. Recently, we have bought a lot of New Year's goods, some of which were given by others. I will send you back to your parents' place and get some New Year's goods for them." Qin made the arrangement. These were all things that Annie Qin had told her to do. People were not afraid of trouble, because not many people would refuse, not to mention their relationship. Song Ryu did not say anything, but just nodded and agreed. After dinner, Qin drove Song Ryu home. It was still snowing heavily outside. The ground was already covered with a thick layer of snow, not to mention the surrounding trees. It seemed that a magician had activated ice and snow magic. There were also snow-shoveling vehicles working on the road. Otherwise, accidents could easily occur in such a weather. Perhaps because he had nothing to do, Qin did not leave immediately after sending Song Ryu home. Instead, he sat on the sofa, drinking tea and reading casually, while Song Ryu cleaned up the house and did the laundry. This kind of feeling seemed to be quite warm, which reminded Qin Sheng of the days when he was with Lin Su. Thinking of Lin Su, Qin Sheng missed her a little. Life in a foreign country must be difficult. Shui Qingyan had called Qin Sheng and told him about Lin Su's life in the United States. Other than the fact that she needed to adapt to the pace of life slowly, everything else was fine. Everything had been arranged. Anyway, Qin Sheng fully supported Lin Su. Even if Lin Su could not stay idle and wanted to do something, he would support her, as always. At 10 o'clock, although the snow outside had not stopped, Qin Sheng was ready to go home. He got up and put on his coat. He said to Song Ruyu, "It's late. I'm going home. You should rest early." Song Ruyu looked at Qin Sheng and hesitated for a moment. "It's snowing heavily outside. Why don't you not go home? Anyway, Annie and sister are not at home." This was the first time that Song Ruyu had taken the initiative to ask Qin Sheng to stay. Qin Sheng was very clear about what it meant for Song Ruyu. However, this was something that would happen sooner or later. Recently, Song Ruyu had been busy, so they did not have much time to contact each other. Now, Song Ruyu finally had some free time. "Well, then I won't go home." Qin Sheng did not hesitate at all and directly agreed, for fear that Song Ruyu would change her mind and drive him away in the next second. Song Ruyu could not help but laugh at Qin Sheng's behavior. She said angrily, "Can't you be more reserved?" "I've always been thick-skinned," Qin Sheng said shamelessly. Song Ruyu did not bother to pay attention to Qin Sheng. She said lightly, "I'm going to prepare pajamas and toiletries for you. Wait in the living room for a while." While Song Ruyu was preparing these things, Qin Sheng called Changbaji and asked them to go home directly. Changbaji left without any hesitation. He was only responsible for protecting Qin Sheng and never cared about Qin Sheng's personal affairs. If Hao Lei had not left, he would definitely have complained about it. Song Ruyu went to bed after taking a shower. Meanwhile, she asked Qin Sheng to take a shower. In fact, she was very embarrassed to face Qin Sheng like this, because this was the first time that they were really alone. After all, there were other people in the Lin family last time. However, it was different this time. If Qin Sheng wanted something to happen, what should Song Ruyu do? Song Ruyu lay on the bed and read a book absent-mindedly. She was only wearing pajamas. Just now, she asked Qin Sheng to stay because she was worried that Qin Sheng might have an accident on the way home due to the heavy snow outside. She had used all her courage to ask Qin Sheng to stay, but now she seemed to be a little worried. However, since she had asked Qin Sheng to stay, of course, Song Ruyu could not regret it. Moreover, they had slept in the same bed. Song Ruyu could not let Qin Sheng sleep on the sofa. Although they had slept in the same bed, nothing had happened. What about tonight? When Qin Sheng came out of the shower, Song Ruyu still leaned against the headboard and read a book, as if she had not seen him. Qin Sheng went directly to bed and got under the quilt. However, he did not do anything out of line. Song Ruyu was quietly looking at Qin Sheng. In fact, Qin Sheng knew what she was worried about, but he did not point it out. After a while, Qin Sheng took the initiative to lean towards Song Ruyu. He held her in his arms and said, "Stop reading. Let's go to sleep." "Okay." Song Ruyu put down the book. She did not refuse to be held by Qin Sheng, but her body was somewhat trembling. Qin Sheng did not know whether to laugh or cry. After Song Ruyu turned off the light, the two of them lay down. Qin Sheng still held Song Ruyu in his arms and did not move. He was not excited and was very calm. After all, a gentleman should be magnanimous. "Let's go to sleep." Qin Sheng gently kissed Song Ruyu on the cheek and lay down. It was impossible for Qin Sheng to not have any desire to hold such a great beauty in his arms. Moreover, this great beauty was his fiancée. If Qin Sheng really wanted to do something, there would be nothing wrong with it. However, he knew that Song Ruyu was not ready yet, so he would not act impulsively. After all, he was not an animal that thought with the lower half of his body. Therefore, he tried his best to suppress his desire, just like last time. Not long after, Qin Sheng fell asleep. He really fell asleep. Where was Song Ruyu? Her thoughts were in a mess. Naturally, she did not feel sleepy until she found that Qin Sheng had fallen asleep again. Song Ruyu was really speechless. She did not know whether to laugh or cry. She seemed to be a little disappointed and a little dissatisfied with Qin Sheng. However, after coming to herself, Song Ryu turned around and took the initiative to hug Qin Sheng. She curled up in Qin Sheng's arms and enjoyed the warmth at this moment very much. Chapter 10:14. Lin Shi and Wang Li had arranged for Qin Sheng and Song Ryu to sleep together for 2 nights in the Lin family's house in Qin. Qin Sheng and Song Ryu didn't want the 2 elders to think too much, so they had to make do with it. But now they were in Beijing, in Song Ryu's home, and Song Ryu had asked Qin Sheng to stay. Nothing had happened between them, which was somewhat unreasonable. More importantly, they were engaged. Even if they lived together, no one would say anything. Unfortunately, Qin Sheng was still so rational. Although Song Ryu wasn't prepared, she was a woman after all. She had used all her courage to ask Qin Sheng to stay. Moreover, she didn't refuse to sleep in the same bed with Qin Sheng. If she continued to take the initiative, she wouldn't be Song Ryu. Therefore, Song Ryu was somewhat disappointed and confused. Of course, she was also relieved. Why did Qin Sheng do that? Of course, he had his own reasons. First of all, Song Ryu was not an ordinary woman. She was the daughter of the Song family and a famous goddess in Suzhou City. Second, he knew that Song Ryu wasn't prepared, so he didn't want to force her. Wouldn't it be better for things to come naturally? Moreover, neither Qin Sheng nor Song Ryu had completely accepted each other. Their relationship had started halfway, and they needed time to get used to each other. It was already a rapid development for them to get to where they were now. Everything would happen sooner or later. Why should they care about it now? When Qin Sheng got up in the morning, the heavy snow outside finally stopped. The windows were full of mist. If he opened the window and looked into the distance, he would find that Beijing was really beautiful at this moment. Such a heavy snow might only happen once in a few years. When Qin Sheng woke up, he found that he was the only one beside his pillow. He didn't know where Song Ryu was. After a while, Qin Sheng heard the movement outside and smelled a fragrance. He didn't need a guess to know that Song Ryu was making breakfast. He was probably the only one who could enjoy such treatment. Who could make Goddess Song his wife? There was a cup of warm water and a set of fitting pajamas on the bedside. Qin Sheng drank the water and stood up with a smile, walking to the kitchen. He had fallen asleep quickly last night. He always slept in seconds and had a good sleep quality, so he was always full of energy. This was because his body had always been in the best state. Song Ryu was walking out with a plate. Seeing Qin Sheng wake up, she smiled and said, "Go wash up. Breakfast will be ready soon." Song Ryu was only wearing pajamas, and her hair was tied into a ponytail. She looked a little messy, but attractive. This was the real Song Ryu, who no one had ever seen. Qin Sheng walked over and hugged her. He smiled and said, "Why don't you sleep more? Why did you get up so early?" Song Ryu's eyes lit up. This kind of ambiguous atmosphere made Song Ryu feel a little embarrassed. However, when she thought of how comfortable it was to lie in his arms and hug him to sleep last night, she couldn't help but smile. However, when she woke up in the morning, he put his hand in the wrong place again. This time, he put his hand into his pajamas. Song Ryu didn't dare to continue sleeping. Moreover, she could feel his physical reaction. She had to get up quickly to make breakfast. Qin Sheng held Song Ryu in his arms and put his head on her shoulder. He bent down and rested his head on Song Ryu's shoulder, smelling the fragrance of Song Ryu's hair and body. He just wanted to cuddle with her for a while. Song Ryu couldn't stand such intimacy. She begged, "Stop it. Go wash up." Qin Sheng stopped teasing Song Ryu. He impudently kissed her on the cheek and then ran away, leaving Song Ryu at a loss. After breakfast, Qin Sheng and Song Ryu went out. The snow outside was a little thick and cold. Qin Sheng held Song Ryu tightly and put her hand in his pocket. He drove Song Ryu to the door of the company and then left. It was snowing all over North China and Northeast China, which was a sign of a bumper harvest. The new year was coming, and the snow was a happy sign. In contrast, Sanya was sunny and hot. Beautiful women in bikinis were everywhere on the beach, enjoying the sunshine, waves, and beach. Every winter, Sanya was the most lively place. Tourists from all over the country came here for vacation. The business here was better than ever. Most of the tourists were from the northeast. Otherwise, Sanya would be called Sanya City of the 3 provinces in the northeast. It was said that a branch of a private hospital in Harbin had been opened in Sanya. After breakfast, Zhao Anji took Qin Ran and Qin Jing to the beach for a walk. Zhao Anji's dress was relatively conservative, while the 2 beauties, Qin Ran and Qin Jing, were more open. They were wearing beautiful and sexy bikinis, but the protection measures were in place. Otherwise, it would be bad if they got tanned or sunburned. The Qin family's big event finally ended. The Qin family had been busy for a long time. Seeing that the new year was coming, Zhao Anji took the 2 girls out to rest for a few days. They would go back to Beijing for the new year tomorrow. She knew that Qin Changxing was in Sanya, but she wasn't interested in meeting him, so she didn't ask for his specific address. More importantly, it wasn't appropriate. The 2 girls played on the beach, carefree and not as depressed as before. Zhao Anji was old, so she rested under the parasol and watched them play there. Of course, she wasn't afraid that anything would happen. After all, she brought a few bodyguards with her this time. The bodyguards of the Qin family were scattered around them. However, Zhao Anji didn't notice that there were 2 men staring at them from the beach in the distance. One of them was an old man over 60 years old. He wore a fancy short-sleeved shirt and shorts, sunglasses, and a hat, but no one could see what he looked like. The man next to him was about the same age as him and also wore sunglasses. However, his hair was still black, and it looked like he had dyed it. "Lao Qin, that's your daughter. You really don't want to meet her?" The old man with thick black hair said as he looked into the distance. His eyes were fixed on Qin Ran and Qin Jing. The man called Lao Qin shook his head and said, "It's not the right time yet. Let's not meet her. Besides, I'm afraid she can't take it if we meet so suddenly." The old man with thick black hair said thoughtfully, "You have too many concerns. Are you still going to stay in Sanya? Are you not going to go back with me for the spring festival?" Lao Qin chuckled and said, "The spring festival doesn't mean anything to me. After so many years, I'm used to living alone quietly. If I go back, it will be too busy and I'm not used to it. Fortunately, you, my old friend, remember me and come to see me. I'm already satisfied. You and I grew up together and experienced all kinds of revolutionary friendship. I'm so happy that you called me and told me that you were in Sanya. I'm happy for you and happy for myself. After so many years, you've finally come out," the old man said with some emotion. They used to be high-spirited young people, but now they were old men in their twilight years. As time passed, people grew old without them noticing. Lao Qin was Qin Changxing, who had been staying in Sanya for a long time. The identity of this old man, who could make Qin Changxing call him, was not simple. They had known each other for more than 60 years. They started their careers at the same time. It was a pity that Qin Changxing quit halfway and became a monk. But the old man's career did not stop. He retired to the second line a few years ago and finally got a license plate of Jing AG6. Qin Changxing glanced at the 2 girls in the distance. One was his biological daughter, and the other was his biological niece. Seeing the smiles on their faces, he was happier than ever. The old man said unhappily, "If you don't come back, you old guys will die soon. It's time to send you on your last journey," Qin Changxing said half-jokingly. The old man said angrily, "You are still the same old man. I just want to know, did you plan this move of the Qin family? Why don't you guess it was the Zhu family?" Qin Changxing laughed. The old man said thoughtfully, "I heard that Chang made some arrangements inside a few days ago. I really doubt whether you two have discussed it. Are you going to give Lao Lu a fatal blow? You asked the Qin family to withdraw from Chang An's faction, and then Chang and said something. Who could defend against you two? You hurt the enemy by 10,000, but you hurt yourself by 8,000, Qin Changxing said helplessly. The old man said quietly, "Lao Lu is not easy to deal with. Even the sworn enemy of the Qin family has come. I'm afraid it won't end so easily." Qin Changxing squinted and said, "I didn't want it to end like this. So many years have passed. Since he still dares to come out, let's settle the score. Anyway, I'm old and have no scruples anymore. Be careful, the old man reminded him kindly. The two old men didn't chat for long before they left. Today, Qin Changxing had dragged the old man over to see his daughter. From this, it could be seen that their relationship was not ordinary. In the past, many feudal officials had emerged from their small circle. It was truly shocking. Looking back at the circle of the past, it seemed that many things had long been predestined. When Zhao Anji, Qin Ran, and Qin Jing returned to Beijing, it was already the 27th of the 12th lunar month. They bought a lot of things from the duty-free shop in Sanya, many of which were gifts for the relatives and friends of the Song family and the Zhu family, so that they would not have to go back. Because of their return, the Qin family became lively again, more lively than before. Yujbak, Hao Lei, and many bodyguards and servants of the Qin family left Beijing at noon to go home for the Spring Festival. As the main family, Zhao Anji, Qin Ran, and the others of the Qin family naturally gave each of them a big red packet. In addition, there was a big year-end bonus. After all, the Qin family was really not short of money now. Chapter 10:15. No country could understand the meaning of Chinese rushing home before New Year's Eve. Only the Chinese themselves knew what it meant to go home during the New Year. It meant reunion. Only when there was a family could they be reunited. Nothing could stop the desire to go home. Wherever the home was, the soul would be there. Therefore, every year at the end of the year, hundreds of millions of people would migrate. Train stations, airports, and other places would be packed with people. However, everyone was exceptionally happy because they were going home soon. Every year, the Qin family would rotate different bodyguards and servants to go home for the Spring Festival or stay in Beijing. Otherwise, the basic living problems of so many people in the Qin family had to be guaranteed. This year, the Qin family moved to the Shishan villa and no longer lived in the Sihiyuan of the Qin family. In comparison, the area of the Shishan villa was much larger than that of the Sihiyuan. However, there were fewer people during the Spring Festival, so it was relatively deserted. However, it was already the end of the year. Everyone was at home almost every day. It was still a little lively. Nangang was also called back by Qin Ran. Although Qin Chang'an was not around, it was impossible for the Qin family to let Nangang celebrate the Spring Festival alone. After all, Nangang was Qin Chang'an's adopted daughter. Of course, the Qin family treated her as a family member. Consequently, Qin Ran and Qin Jing also dragged Nangang out. The three women and Qin Sheng went to the temple fair to buy some New Year's goods. It seemed that there were so many New Year's goods that they wanted to bring everything back home. At this time, they had just finished shopping at Qianmen Street and went to a few shopping malls to buy other things. In the end, Qin Ran took Qin Sheng, Qin Jing, and Nangang to SKP. She said that she wanted to buy each of them a new set of clothes as a New Year's gift for them. It was really hard for Qin Sheng to understand women's shopping habits. It seemed that they could not finish buying things when they went shopping every day. Now, he really had too many clothes to wear, but these women still kept buying clothes for him. Qin Sheng had no choice but to be a coolie. Fortunately, the Qin family could afford to support these women. Otherwise, they would have gone bankrupt long ago. In the end, Qin Ran didn't forget to buy new clothes for her mother and grandmother, as well as for Song Ruyu. If it weren't for the fact that Song Ruyu's holiday was tomorrow, she would have been asked to go shopping with them. Therefore, when they got home, it was already very late. They only came back after dinner and bought all kinds of things. Even Zhao Anji was shocked. These children's combat power was too strong. They bought more things than when they came back from Sanya. It was really because it was the new year that they were so unscrupulous. In the afternoon of the 28th day of the 12th lunar month, Qin Sheng went to pick Song Ryu up from work and then sent her back to her parents' home with the New Year's goods that the Qin family had prepared. Song Ryu had already packed her luggage and daily necessities, which were all placed in the trunk of the car. Qin Sheng drove Song Ryu's car, while Chang Baji and the others followed behind. After getting in the car, Song Ryu said with a sigh, "Finally, it's the New Year's holiday." Nowadays, Song Ryu was becoming more and more real in front of Qin Sheng. This was how a couple should get along. Qin Sheng held Song Ryu's hand and said, "Don't you like working?" Song Ryu stared at Qin Sheng and said, "Work when it's time to work and rest when it's time to rest. Who wants to work all the time?" Qin Sheng found it funny and said, Okay. You're right. Then have a good rest during the new year." After sending Song Ryu to her parents' home, Qin Sheng, Changbaji, and the bodyguards came in with a lot of things. Song Ryu's mother was surprised and said, "What are you doing? Moving? Why did you bring so many things?" "Mom, it's nothing. They are all New Year's goods. My aunt asked me to bring them to you. You can eat them during the new year." Since the day of the engagement, Qin Sheng had been calling Song Ryu's parents. Although he was not used to it, he could only get used to it gradually. After a few months, he would get used to it. Song Ryu's mother found it funny and said, "Your aunt is so polite. We don't have anything for you to bring." Qin Sheng smiled and said that it was okay. Then he was dragged to the living room by Song Ryu's father to drink tea. Changbaji and the others had already left and were waiting for Qin Sheng downstairs. Song Ryu's parents happened to want to talk about the New Year's greeting this year, such as when Song Ryu should go to the Qin family, when Song Ryu should pay New Year's greeting to the old lady, when Qin Sheng should pay New Year's greeting to the old master, and so on. They had to discuss with Qin Sheng. After all, the Qin family had made arrangements. In the end, Qin Sheng followed his grandmother's instructions and went to the Song family on the first day of the new year. Song Ryu's parents said that there was no need for Qin Sheng to come to their place alone. They asked Qin Sheng to meet them directly in the Sihiyuan of the Song family. It happened that all the members of the Song family would be at the old master's place on the first day of the new year, which saved Qin Sheng a lot of trouble. After all, Qin Sheng would definitely be busy during the new year. Then, Qin Sheng took Song Ryu to his grandmother's place on the second day of the new year. At that time, the Zhu family would also be there. It was a good time for the whole family. Song Ryu's parents directly let Qin Sheng take care of Song Ryu. Except for paying New Year's greeting to Song Ryu's uncle and aunt, Song Ryu would be with Qin Sheng for the rest of the time. They almost told Song Ryu to live directly in the Qin family and not to come back. Although they didn't say it directly, everyone could understand what they meant. After all, the two children were now engaged, and there was no need to be afraid of anything. After discussing these things, Qin Sheng left the Song family and went back to the West Mountain Villa. Before leaving, Song Ryu's parents brought some local specialties from their relatives and friends. Of course, Qin Sheng didn't refuse to take them back. On the 29th of the 12th lunar month, Zhao Anji took Qin Sheng, Qin Ran, Qin Jing, Nangong, and the others to clean up the house. Although she had asked the cleaners and servants to do a thorough cleaning, today she took the children to clean up their own rooms and the inside and outside of the villa. Tomorrow was the New Year's Eve, so they didn't have to do anything then. Anyway, everyone had nothing to do, so they just took it as a physical exercise. Even so, they were still exhausted. The Qin family's villa was too big. It was the largest villa in the villa area. Fortunately, there were many people in the Qin family. Otherwise, it would be deserted. In the evening, Zhao Anji personally cooked to reward everyone. After dinner, everyone sat in the living room and chatted, gossiped, and made harmless jokes. Changbaji and Gongsun were also in the living room. Now, there were no outsiders, only the Qin family's own people. Unknowingly, it was already the New Year's Eve. Qin Sheng, Qin Ran, and the others were woken up early in the morning. This was the first time that Zhao Anji had woken them up so early. After all, today was the New Year's Eve, and there were still many things to do. After breakfast, Zhao Anji led the Qin family to worship the ancestors of the Qin family. From great-grandfather to great-grandmother, they all burned incense and kowtowed. Qin Sheng had already gone through this procedure last year. Except for his grandfather's voice and smile, Qin Sheng was familiar with the rest of the great-grandfather, great-grandmother, and grandmother. Qin Sheng had only seen them a few times. He heard from Annie and the old man about these things. Grandmother was a lady from a prominent family in Zhejiang. Back then, she had quite a strong background there. However, later on, the descendants of her family had all gone abroad, or to Southeast Asia. Grandmother was the only one left in her family. In addition to various things that happened later, the two families did not have much contact. However, the old man still had contact with grandmother's branch family, but it was all business cooperation. As for great-grandfather, needless to say, the Qin family had been rooted in Suzhou City for hundreds of years. At that time, great-grandfather could be considered a well-known figure. He had connections with various big shots in the late Qin dynasty and the Republic of China. He had also sponsored different forces, so he paved the way for the Qin family later. As for great-grandmother, she was a lady from a prominent family in Suzhou City at that time. Unfortunately, she was in the army. During the Tangled War, she chose the wrong side, which led to a big case. The whole family was almost wiped out. In the end, Qin Sheng naturally paid his respects to his mother. He used to be a stranger, but now he was very familiar with her. How nice it would be if his mother was still alive. After that, Zhao Anji asked Qin Sheng, Qin Ran, and Qin Jing Nangong to go to the suburbs to visit the graves of great-grandfather, great-grandmother, and Qin Sheng's mother. This was the tradition of the Qin family. They would visit the graves of the elders every New Year's Eve, which could be regarded as calling them home for the spring festival. It should be a custom in many places. When they were visiting their mother's grave, they met Lao Guo. Qin Ran had prepared a lot of gifts for Lao Guo in advance. Lao Guo had been guarding this place conscientiously all these years. It seemed that his life had long been integrated into this place. Qin Sheng and Qin Ran were very grateful to him. Why are you giving me gifts again? You give me so many gifts every year. I can't eat them all. Lao Guo declined. Qin Ran smiled and said, if you can't eat them all, you can take your time. In the end, Qin Sheng gave Lao Guo a big red envelope. This was a tradition every year. Lao Guo refused several times, but finally accepted it. Although his son was a good-for-nothing, he was still his son. He would send these gifts to his son later. When Qin Sheng and the others came back from the suburbs, it was already noon. After lunch, Zhao Anji continued to arrange the work. After all, Zhao Anji was the only elder in the Qin family. This was also the first spring festival that Zhao Anji had brought Qin Jing back. No matter how many things had happened this year, they had to celebrate the spring festival happily. They put up couplets, hung up lanterns, and put up auspicious characters. They also bought all kinds of New Year ornaments and needed to find a place to decorate them. At this time, they were all excited. They were busy and smiling. Qin Jing was very interested in these things. She had never spent the spring festival in China before. This was also the first time that she really came back home to celebrate the spring festival. The Qin family's villa was so big that there were many places where they needed to put up couplets, auspicious characters, and lanterns. Almost everyone in the family was busy. Even Gong's son and Chang Baji were busy. It took them several hours to finish. But looking at the Qin family's villa, which had a new look and was full of the New Year atmosphere, they all smiled happily. When a night was about to fall, the most important part of the show was staged. It was the finale of the New Year's Eve dinner. The chief director was Zhao Anji, the assistant director was Qin Sheng, and the two chefs of the Qin family. The rest of the people were assistants. They stayed in the kitchen to join in the fun. It seemed that it was boring to do nothing. In the end, it was Qin Sheng who chased them out. They were really a hindrance. So Qin Ran, Qin Jing, Nangong, Gong's son, and Chang Baji played poker in the living room. The two old guys had been bullied by the three women and lost a lot of money to them. But although they lost money, they were very happy. At 7 o'clock in the evening, the Qin family's New Year's Eve dinner was finally ready. It was very sumptuous. Qin Sheng and Zhao Anji almost cooked the main dishes. The other dishes were cooked by the two chefs of the Qin family. Of course, they also cooked for the rest of the people in the Qin family. The Qin family did not care about these small things. The people of the Qin family were already at the table. Zhao Anji and Gong's son sat on the main seats. Qin Ran, Nangong, and Qin Jing sat on Zhao Anji's side. Qin Sheng and Chang Baji sat on Uncle Gongsuan's side. This year, except for the absence of Qin Chang'an, there had never been so many people in the Qin family celebrating the New Year together. Qin Sheng asked Uncle Gong's son to open 2 bottles of Maodai that the old man treasured. Tonight, he wanted to have a good drink with Uncle Gong's son and Lao Chong. The women drank red wine, which was also collected by Qin Chang'an for a long time. When everyone filled up their glasses, they raised their glasses and shouted in unison, "Happy New Year, cheers." Yes, it was the New Year. Happy New Year. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.